You deserve a tech career you love, coworkers you can count on, innovation you're proud to build. If you're ready to change the world through technology, explore a career at Cox. Make a real impact in engineering, development, cybersecurity, and more, all while experiencing work-life balance, flexible work options, and great benefits. Visit cox.career/tech to find a job you love today. That's cox.career/tech.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
This is Speedball Mike Bailey. You're listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. Yes.
Yo, this is Rich Latter from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll review Sakura Genesis, preview Windy City Riot, and cover all its news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leave a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/social suplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Young boy, how you doing?
It is a work in progress. For whatever reason, I know we talked about it last week, but my camera just does not want to work with me on this new platform that we are using to do our video podcast. Tried a couple fixes. Looks like it's not in the cards, but luckily I kind of figured out the lighting situation a little bit better. And the shitty auto camera that comes with this isn't looking half as bad as it did last week, so that's a plus.
Nice. Yeah, I think as far as the streaming end of things, everything is looking good. I think we're going to be pretty good to launch soon. We could probably launch in the next week or so.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And for anybody that's listening, that's kind of considering, we'll go over, more details, but there's definitely some things down the pipeline that I would like to do that maybe are a little bit more appropriate for, like a Patreon type situation. I know there's some Australia shows out there that need to get reviewed. There's some LA Academy shows on YouTube that we've yet to go over. So, I think the Young Boy verse is something that probably needs to kick off here in just a little while.
Yeah, well, we'll give all the details to that as we launch in the next week or so with live streaming video and all the other plans that we have here for this show. And speaking of plans for the show, this coming up Friday is Windy City Riot for New Japan in the Wintrust Arena, and we will be there in Chicago, and we're going to have a fan meetup before the show. So that's Friday, April 12th, right before Windy City Riot, 4 p.m., a couple hours before the doors open. We'll be going to the Lou Rooftop Bar, which is only about a minute away from the Wintrust Arena. And we're going to go up there, have some drinks, hang out, and, kind of pregame before Windy City Riot.
Yeah, if you're not sure what we look like, check out our social media, check out the banner. You'll see what we look like. That way you'll be able to identify us. Now, if you think when you show up that, you know, if you're going to go up to the bartender or the host and say, you know, I'm here for the social suplex meetup. That's not what we're doing here. All right.
Yeah.
There will be no giveaways. There will be no raffles. There will be no prizes. You know, are any New Japan superstars going to come? I don't think so. Maybe, but I doubt it. Will we be doing any sort of, you know, drink raffles, ticket? None of that stuff is going on. This is a super informal meetup. But what we will be doing is we'll be chilling. We'll be 22 feet up in the air, being able to see the beautiful skyline of Chicago. You'll be able to kick it with your boys, grab a drink, and then literally just walk right over to the arena when the doors open and get yourself a seat and watch the IWGP title change hands.
Hey, you know, this is going to be the second time that we're live in attendance for a IWGP title change.
Yeah, we were there, Madison Square Garden, 2019, 5 years ago, literally this week, when one Kazuchika Okada defeated Jay White for the IWGP heavyweight title, and now they both work for Tony Khan. So, you know.
Yeah, and this, you know, 2019, a Japanese star took it from a white man, and now in 2024, white man is going to take it from a Japanese man.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. But we've gotten a lot of really great feedback. We've reached out to a lot of other, you know, friends in the podcasting space, asking them to promote it. I'm so behind on podcasts. So I don't know if any of those guys and girls have actually followed through with what they've said, but, you know, hopefully they're promoting it. But we've had plenty of people reach out and say that they're going to be in attendance. So it's going to be a good time. It's just, you know, a bunch of pro wrestling dorks hanging out, drinking alcohol. And that's what it's basically going to be. But I guarantee you those 2 hours that you've got before the show, and trust me, I'll be honest with you. I hope to meet you guys. I hope to hang out and chill, take photos and everything, but we're not getting paid. We're not charging you guys. This isn't something where we're, you know, taking spots and doing all that.
Yeah,
so
this is very informal. You know, don't call up the Voo rooftop and be like, it's the Keeping It Strong style official meetup. No, this is just, you know,
I'm here for the party. I'm going to be on the Keeping It Strong style tab.
Right. There is no tab. This is very casual. Just, you know, want to gather some New Japan fans together. You know, you're paying for your own meal. You're paying for your own drinks.
So what I was saying, though, is if nobody shows up, no skin off my back, because it'll be you and me chilling, Jeremy, and I'm going to be throwing them back.
And of course, you know, we got friends of the show, Dan Coffin, Jamie Spector, Floyd Johnson from All Things Elite.
Yeah, the Social Suplex crew is going to be there. So we're going to have a good time regardless. So, you know, for those of you that are listening that are going to be in attendance for the show, I highly recommend you show up, because kicking it with Social Suplex is a good time. We're going to have a great time before the show, and then, you know, go to the show. And it's just awesome to meet the listeners and to kind of dialogue with you guys, talk pro wrestling, talk shop. So,
yeah. And
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I thought we were moving on, so I wanted to kind of blast you for something real quick. But
well, one thing I was going to say, I just want to give, I want to plug the Discord channel again. We've been seeing a lot of people joining the Discord. So I really want to just plug that. It's a great way to interact with us, other shows on the network, other wrestling fans. So made it a little bit easier to find. If you go straight to socialsuplex.com, there is a join Discord button right on the homepage. You can click on that, and that will get you into the Discord. We're making some strides there, making it, you know, more organized, more fun, more entertaining. Big up to Trish and Sarah and Tone Talk again, because they've done a lot of work on bringing people in to the Discord and bringing some new life there. So go on, check the Discord out.
Yeah, I heard they're poaching talent from other places. Yeah, I think the new look of the Discord looks great. I'm glad that you moved the podcasts to the top guys on top, you know, instead of the bottom. So, you know, we moved up the ladder. Last week, and I guess this is a quasi plug, because you started to share what the look and the layout of our video podcast is going to be by sharing clips on YouTube, which is cool. I agreed to this, Jeremy. I knew you were going to do this. I just didn't know you were going to do it last week.
Honestly, I didn't know I was going to do it either.
If I had known, I would have, I don't know what I would have done, but I would have been more cognizant of the fact that I was on camera and everything like that. So, it caught me off guard. And I was like, fuck, bro, like, give me a heads up.
Well, the thing was, I was watching back the stream and I was like, and the platform I'm using, it makes it very easy to edit the video right within the platform and create clips. And it sends the clip out to YouTube on its own. And I'm just like, oh, well, this is easy. Let me try this out. I was like, what could get some buzz? Tsuji, I was like, let me clip this up real quick. And then I was like, all right, this looks good. Let me put it on the channel. And so
nice. Yeah, great clip to put up there, and hopefully, we get some other clips. I'm wondering what I even do here. Like my role is becoming more and more redundant as time goes on. As Jeremy has mastered the art of crafting this podcast, I contribute very little.
I mean, you could tell me when you listen back and tell me good clips you want to post. Because going forward, this stream's looking real good.
I listen to the podcast.
I know you used to.
I used to. That was, man, we've been doing this way too long. The reason I used to listen is to make sure we were good. We're good. I do listen sometimes. Like if we have a guest on, I'll re-listen, but I don't know, man. I got a lot of podcasts in my rotation. Although I've been Xing out of a few of them, getting off the follow list, just some craziness out there, but trying to expand my listenership to a few different channels, different stuff like that while I'm working. Big interview for me tomorrow. And if I get it, I will be making a lot more money, but I'll also have a lot less time to as we're about to roll out a Patreon, a lot less time to contribute to this show. But I still expect my 50% regardless. It's in the contract. So
yeah, lots of fun stuff come up there. But let's dive into what we've got to cover this week.
Before we do that, how are you feeling after Mania weekend? Were you able to, not going to super specifics, but were you able to catch any shows? What'd you think?
Yeah, honestly, like probably way compared to previous years, I've watched way less than I normally would. And I think we've talked about this on the show before, but I find it a lot harder to try and watch stuff while I'm at home versus when we used to travel to the city and hit up every show. So I watched the Stardom show. I had it on in the background while I was working. I watched WrestleMania Saturday with you and Rich and James, the Pillars. And then I watched the last few matches of WrestleMania Sunday. And I watched the recommended Bloodsport match. Besides that, I haven't seen anything else.
I did watch the Defy show. I always find the early Thursday morning show an easy find to just throw on in the background while I'm working. Nothing really great there. I was able to catch the Gringo Loco versus Kenta match for the Defy World Heavyweight title. And we're not going to need to record. We're not going to need to review it for Excursion Match of the Year. Although it wasn't bad. It was pretty good. I think I'm a little higher than other people. I was like 3.5, maybe like 3.5 plus. I can't get to that 3 3/4 threshold, but like 3 2/3. And it was very good. Not near like the best match of the weekend, but Kenta did retain his title over Gringo Loco. That did play into our review that's coming up of Sakura Genesis and his title defense of the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles. I also saw Bloodsport. Bloodsport was a great show, as it always is. But what I'm finding is in the past, first off, I'll just say the guys over at Voices of Wrestling, they do the best coverage of Mania weekend that's out there. So I know a lot of that's paywalled, but it's probably worth it to check it out. But in the past, when all these different events were going on, you'd be able to like find blogs or go to Cage Match and get a compilation of what were the best matches that were occurring at the big shows, and then kind of cherry pick and dive in and figure out what you want to watch. And like, I'm finding that near impossible this year, because even though people watch those shows, the amount of people that are using Cage Match or that are blogging or that are putting this stuff to paper or digital or whatever, it's so far less. Like I know that there was a I know the Action Wrestling show with the Dean Rasmussen tribute show. There was like 2 really good matches. I know the dog collar match and the Timothy Thatcher versus Daniel Makabe match is supposed to be incredible. But like I had to dive deep to find out that was the case. So it's like, it's not easy. There's no buzz anymore about what's going on these independent shows. And I think it's just because like AEW, Ring of Honor, WWE, NXT, they're eating up the space basically.
Yeah, and I listened to all of Voices of Wrestling's reviews throughout the week, and yeah, nothing really sounded like it was, go out of your way, must see. Like there were some fun shows, but it wasn't like previous years where you had guys like, Will Ospreay and Walter and Matt Riddle and all these guys that would, be killing, Pentagon and Phoenix would be going show to show. Like it's not WrestleMania weekend of the past. And yeah, there were good shows. I heard like there was like a Dragon Gate kind of show with a partner promotion in New Jersey that was pretty good. I heard Bloodsport was good. Stardom show, I watched that. That was fun. But I mean, we've seen now there's kind of an oversaturation of shows. It's kind of flooded the market, and a lot of the good stuff, it's all head to head. So if you are trying to watch stuff, you got to kind of pick what you're going to watch and then watch other stuff on delay. And then, of course, if you're more of a WWE fan, there's SmackDown and the Hall of Fame and NXT Stand and Deliver. So it's just
apparently there was an all-time great triple threat match on that show.
I wouldn't know.
I watched it. I thought it was just a pretty good, triple threat match. I maybe 4 stars, maybe. Like, and then I go into cage match 9.15. What? It's one of the greatest triple threat matches of all time. I didn't think so, but all right.
So overall, that was kind of my Mania weekend. Didn't watch as much as I could, or just didn't have the time to watch that stuff. I kind of watch more of the bigger stuff, and so yeah.
Nice. Well, one thing, New Japan had a busy week, and the fact that they were not on the WrestleMania weekend probably hurt things. Well, just less interaction from the big stars from Japan, from New Japan. So, but yeah, we had Road to Sakura Genesis, and then Sakura Genesis itself, and a lot of press conferences, big match announcements. So we should just jump into it.
Yeah, so we'll start with the Road to Sakura Genesis from April 3rd. This was kind of the go-home show for the big Sakura Genesis show. So the show opened up, we had Evil and Yujiro from the House of Torture. They defeated Murashima and Shoma Kato, 6 minutes and 31 seconds. So pretty much just, House of Torture trying to get their heat back a little bit and build some momentum up for some big matches they have coming up.
Yeah, you would think that with these being young lions that you still wouldn't need any sort of heat shenanigans from House of Torture, but that was not the case.
Yeah.
They didn't cheat because they needed to. They did it because they like to.
Yeah. So nothing much else there. Then following that, we had Doki, Sanada, Taichi, Taka, and Yuya, just 5 guys. They defeated Tenzan, Bolton Oleg, Taguchi, Tiger Mask, and Toru Yano, 10 minutes and 34 seconds. Big thing here, once again, Yuya Uemura, he hits a big crossbody on Tiger Mask and gets another win over an established veteran.
Yeah, they're doing a lot here to reestablish Heat Storm, as he has, lost his hair and then dropped a first round loss in the New Japan Cup. So the rehabilitation project of Yuya Uemura is in full effect right now.
Yeah. Then following that, we had Chase Owens and Taiji Ishimori defeating El Desperado and Yoshihashi. And almost another similar story with Yuya is here with Ishimori. He's been picking up a lot of wins on undercards lately, and here he pins Desperado.
Yeah, big surprise. Despi's kind of dropped a few losses recently that were sort of unexpected, but this probably being the biggest one of them. Ishimori essentially cheated down the stretch where the referee's back was turned. He popped up Desperado and hit him with a kick that hit in the nether regions as well as the face, and then was able to pin him in his weakened condition with the Ghetto Clutch, get the 1, 2, 3. And I think that this is sort of a trend we're seeing right now where some of these junior guys, as we're getting ready to head into Super Junior season, are picking up some unexpected victories to kind of bolster them up and give them a little bit of heat and momentum going into that tournament.
Yeah, and we know they love pushing Ishimori when it comes Super Junior season. He's a guy that usually gets pushed heavily, does pretty well in the tournament. So not a surprise to see him picking up some wins here.
Mm-hmm.
So then following that, we had a gauntlet match. So last week when we previewed this, I thought this was just a regular three-way match.
Three-way. And I didn't know, and I started watching. I'm like, Jeremy said this is a three-way. I was like, oh, this is a gauntlet. I like gauntlets. All right, let's do this.
Yeah, so it started out, we had the team of Tomohiro Ishii and the Intergalactic Jet Setters, Kevin Knight and Kushida. They started in the ring with the United Empire team of Callum Newman and Catch 2-2. And we had Ishii pinning Callum Newman there. And then that brought in the War Dogs, which were the champs of Drilla Maloney, Gabe Kidd, and Gato. They came in, and then Kevin Knight got the pin over Gato.
Yeah, and this was one thing that's weird. I don't know why, but almost everywhere had Gabe Kidd listed as being in this match, which he wasn't. It was
Clark Connors, yeah.
It was Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney. But if you look online on like the New Japan website and on Cage Match and all the aggregators who obviously don't watch the shit, they just copy and paste. For some reason, they don't have Gabe Kidd there, and he wasn't in the match.
I had Gabe Kidd here because I copied it from Cage Match. I didn't even fully read over it.
Yeah. But I thought that this match was really outstanding and very action packed, and the 18 minutes breezed by. And I thought that this was a very, very high level Road to tag match. And if there was anything that I would say go out of your way to check out from this evening's card, this was probably top of the list, and a really good precursor for what would eventually be an awesome junior title match at Sakura Genesis.
Yeah, really fun preview. I thought it was really energetic. I thought it was pretty fast paced, and they're telling a story which we'll get more into with Young Empire and TJP trying to be the captain, and they're kind of falling apart at the seams with Will Ospreay being gone. And so, once again here, they ate a loss with Ishii pinning Newman, and that was great seeing Ishii and Newman back in there after their fun match towards the end of last year. And then Jet Setters looked good as well, and Kevin Knight able to get that win over Gato and had the momentum going into the match. And then post-match, Kevin Knight got on the mic and said that he wanted a tornado-style match for the title match. Kushida translated it in Japanese, and then the champions, Connors and Drill, they accepted the tornado match.
Yeah. I'll always be behind the Tomohiro Ishii should be facing juniors. That whole thing. And so we got a little bit of a taste of that here. We got a little taste of that Sakura Genesis. So I think my point reasons to stand that if this guy just drops a couple kilos, he could be winning best of the Super Juniors, and he should be mixing it up with these guys. I don't see why not. If TJP can go up and Drilla Maloney can go down, I don't know why Ishii can't be the king of the juniors.
He should. I mean, that could be a great late career move for him.
Yeah. Someone translate this podcast and get it transcribed over to Tomohiro Ishii. Let him know Young Boy says, Ichiban Jr. Ishii.
So following that, we had the Dragon Shingo Takagi defeating Yoshinobu Kanemaru by disqualification after 11 minutes and 51 seconds. So we had Kanemaru hitting the referee and called for the bell, and then he ripped off the ref's shirt, put it on. Evil came in, hit C, everything is evil. He counted to 3. Then Evil got on the mic and said that Kanemaru would be the special guest referee for the Never Openweight title match.
Yeah. That was something where when I saw this initially, I just thought okay, that's definitely where we're heading. We're going to wind up with Kanemaru as the special guest referee, which I wasn't necessarily a big fan of that. But at the same time, that's not what actually ended up happening anyways.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh, great. Like, they're just, they're really trying to stack the deck against Shingo here. Like, how is he going to win with, Kanemaru as a referee? But that all played out on Sakura Genesis. But yeah, it was kind of how the Torch are trying to call their own shots here.
Yeah, and it sort of seemed like, oh my God, they're stacking the odds against Shingo Takagi here. And there was a part of me initially where when we got Shingo and Kanemaru, I knew that there'd be House of Torture shenanigans, but I also was like, him and those two guys have worked so well together in the past. We might get a little bit of a something special here. And they just kind of crapped all over the notion of us getting a solid singles match here on a Road to show. So that's fine. But then they really started to lean heavily into that premise that we were going to wind up getting a special guest referee match. And I'm like, hey, look, who gives the authority to the House of Torture to just make, calls like that? Like what's Kadani or Tanahashi or Sugabayashi saying about this? Like, where's the IWGP committee? Like, what's happening? And then come to find out that's not even what occurs. So it was a little weird here, but basically just making it very clear that like they were doing everything in their power to stack the odds against Shingo here.
Yeah. Yeah. I was kind of wondering too. Yeah. How are they, how are they getting that power and how, they're just going to go with it. But yeah, it all kind of worked to help kind of quote unquote build heat for the match and stack decking at Shingo. So then the semi-main event of the evening, we had Shota Umino and Yo. They defeated the House of Torture team of Ren, Narita, and Sho 16 minutes and 1 second.
To be honest with you, I really don't remember this match. So I guess that kind of tells you my thoughts on it. But sort of a preview tag for Umino and Narita's tag match the following night, which would also involve Jon Moxley and Jack Perry, and then Yo and Sho for the junior title. What I do remember was the angle that occurred here. Was that pre-match? That was pre-match, wasn't it?
Yeah, Yo got on the mic. So he's looking forward to facing Sho for the junior title. And he says
there was an angle post and pre-match, actually.
Yeah, he was trying to get Sho to agree to a clean match, and Sho attacked him at the bell. And then post-match, Yo got on the mic and told Sho he will fight fair and square in a singles match.
Yeah, he had told Yo had basically said that we need to talk, grabbed the title, and apologized for taking it hostage, and was like, I needed to do something drastic to get your attention. I'll give you the belt back, but what I'm going to need from you is to essentially promise that we're going to have a clean fight, at Sakura Genesis, which initially it seemed like Sho was starting to agree to that. There were even some sort of allusions to the direct drive or to their Roppongi 3K past, that sort of thing. But then, of course, Sho jumps him at the start of the bell. Post-match, though, Yo was able to get the better of Sho, lay him out, and steal the belt and basically be like, you didn't hold up your end of the bargain. I'm taking the title with me. And like, I'm expecting a clean match when we get to Sumo Hall. So,
yeah. And then that led to the main event, which was the LIJ team of Bushi and Yota Tsuji defeating the LIJ team of Hiromu Takahashi and Tetsuya Naito 14 minutes and 32 seconds, with Bushi getting a surprise win here over Hiromu.
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes sense for quite a few reasons, even if I didn't personally see it coming. If I did, I'd be telling you guys and I'd be taking my victory lap. But in hindsight, it's 2020. So, I mean, Tsuji being the challenger, he kind of needed the win. And then you have to ask yourself, like, what's the likely outcome there? Are we going to see? I mean, because I think most people would have thought it was probably Naito beating Bushi or Hiromu beating, like, Bushi's going to take the pinfall. But at the same time, Tsuji needs the win. He needs the momentum, and like, what's going to make sense? Like, are you going to have Tsuji go over Naito? That's not going to happen. You're going to have him go over Hiromu. That's a little heavy-handed. But Bushi beating him in a slick counter pin combination makes a lot of sense, especially considering the fact that Hiromu's taken quite a few losses unexpectedly here in recent weeks. So this was just another in a string of defeats, whether they were singles or tag matches. And now he eats a loss to Bushi, who is, I think Bushi had also just recently picked up did that happen before? Yeah.
Bushi's been picking up some wins as well.
Yeah, he beat earlier on the tour, he beat Taka Michinoku.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was already sort of coming in with some momentum himself again. Like we talked about, some of these guys are picking up big wins to set them up for Super Junior. So makes sense for Bushi to get the win, give some heat to Tsuji, and kind of sends Hiromu down this spiraling path that he's on, where he's sort of in the midst of a losing streak of sorts.
Yeah, so, a lot of people kind of asking, what are they doing for Hiromu? But yeah, they're definitely doing this kind of like losing streak story here. He's lost the title. He's kind of lost his edge. And yeah, gets, slips on a banana peel here, loses to Bushi. And you got to wonder if that's going to play in come Super Juniors in just a few weeks in May. If he's going to, start to throw off with 3 losses and have to play kind of comeback.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 major juniors that are major forces in the division would be Hiromu and El Desperado, and the 2 of them are usually favored in this tournament. Neither of them are really doing their best work at the current moment. And in the absence of that, you see the kind of turmoil and confusion that the rest of the top of the junior card is sort of in, people stealing belts and all that sort of shenanigans going on. So it's kind of a destabilized division right now.
Yeah. Well, that will lead us to Sakura Genesis, April 6th.
One last thing I just wanted to say, that this match was also, I didn't like it as much as the Gauntlet, but I thought this was a very good preview tag as well, and did a good job setting the table for Tsuji and Naito. Yeah,
really fun, entertaining match. You don't always get interfaction matches, and you don't always get LIJ versus LIJ, so it's really fun. We talked about it last week, how they're kind of playing up on this whole interfaction competition between that group and kind of the intrigue around that. And so you got that here, and, we got kind of close to that, Hiromu Naito match people want so badly. They interacted here in this matchup, and just seeing these teams mix it up, it was kind of cool because you don't always see that in New Japan. And again, very interesting finish here with Bushi. If I was booking out, I would have had Tsuji beat Bushi just to have him, or actually he was with Bushi. I would have had Tsuji pin Hiromu to get to you accomplishing Hiromu losing, and then also giving Tsuji a little bit of momentum going into Sakura Genesis.
Yeah, certainly.
So speaking of Sakura Genesis, let's talk about that. So that was April 6th. Show opened up. We had a pre-show Frontier Zone 6-man tag match. The team of Tomohiro Ishii and Toru Yano teaming up with Bolton Oleg. They defeated the team of Ayato Yoshida, Chicharito Shoki, and Takura Nikki, 8 minutes and 33 seconds.
Yeah, this was a pretty fun preview tag for the Frontier Zone. Some interesting notes. So when the match first started, the guy from the 2AW group that got the biggest pop was Ayato Yoshida, who, as we talked about last week, has a lot of connective history with New Japan, having been here during his time with Michinoku Pro before, or not Michinoku Pro, with Kaientai Dojo before it split into Just Tap Out and 2AW. And he went the 2AW route and kind of lost that entrance that he had into the New Japan space. Now he kind of has made a bit of a return here. Starts off the match going nose to nose with Tomohiro Ishii. And it kind of feels like, I don't know if you've noticed this, but lately there have been a lot of people that are sort of trying to work themselves into programs with Ishii. I don't know if they think like that he's just ripe for the pickings right now, but like you have Yoshida going nose to nose with him. Doki on this last tour tried to start some shit with Ishii. Gabe Kidd during one of their matches did the same thing. You got Nick Nemeth calling him out. I think there's a lot of people that sort of see him as vulnerable right now and are looking and like a big name that they can, build their reputation off of. But it didn't work out for Yoshida here.
Yeah, I think part of the deal with Yoshida is one of his last New Japan matches. So he, like you mentioned, a part of that Michinoku Kaientai Dojo relationship, he was essentially almost a young lion in New Japan. He was teaming a lot with Umino and feuding with Umino. One of his last tag matches, I believe he got pinned by Ishii. So this was his first chance in several years to share a ring with Ishii and get some revenge. So I think that was part of the thing there of him wanting to mix it up with Ishii. But I thought he looked really good. It's been a long time since we've seen him on a New Japan program. But like you mentioned, he was the most over person. And I thought he was the best looking of the three.
Yeah, Takuro Nikki is the current world champion of 2AW, so some good exposure for these younger guys. Shoki and Nikki were both, decidedly juniors in size and stature, and kind of funny to see them try to go toe-to-toe with big bruisers like Oleg Bolton and Ishii, but some good experience for them. Yoshida physically looking a lot more cut than I recall him having looked previously, but his work was very solid and still has the height, still has the charisma. I hope that we see him later on down the road, but that was pretty much the Frontier Zone match. So
yeah, Bolton Oleg was the one who got the pin over Shoki and gained the win for the team there. And we had a question here from Sad Goal 8860. It said, good seeing Yoshida on a New Japan show again. Think they ever sign him?
I don't know what the protocol is there, because I mean, oftentimes people have allegiances and loyalties to the companies and the dojos that they come up in, but at the same time, there is a hierarchy in Japan, and I mean, 2AW isn't exactly Noah. It's not even a big Japan or anything like that. So I would love for them to potentially pick him up as a signee and bring him into New Japan. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great pickup. We keep talking about, people are like, who should New Japan sign? And people are always pointing towards they should get, foreign talent, bring this guy in from this promotion from America. It's like, well, there's a lot of guys in Japan and some of these other smaller promotions that haven't got a ton of exposure, who are young and good, that could really freshen up this roster. And Ayato Yoshida is a guy like that. And so, yeah, I think it'd be a great signing to have. Also, it wouldn't be like a big money signing. You wouldn't need to break the bank to bring him in. And he could be a fresh young talent that you could use to freshen up some of the scenes here in New Japan.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that.
So then following that, we had the TMDK team of Kosei Fujita and Zack Sabre Jr., and they defeated El Desperado and Ryusuke Taguchi 9 minutes and 32 seconds.
Yeah, during our preview, we sort of, at least from me, I sort of had a little bit of frustration with the card, kind of complaining just a bit about some of the bigger singles guys that are heavyweights being involved in these preview matches, like Zack Sabre and David Finlay. And I still kind of stand by those statements to some extent, but these were probably, I would say, a higher caliber of action for these preview tags than we normally see on a Road to show. So I think because they were in Sumo Hall, everybody sort of came with their working boots on. The match was sub 10 minutes, but it was worked really, really well. High-paced action, not too much comedy or not too much of the bad type of comedy from Taguchi. And you kind of get the vibe that some of these, again, Fujita, Taguchi, Desperado, they're all prepping themselves for Super Juniors and sort of getting in the zone for that. Kosei Fujita picks up the big win here over Taguchi. That's a big win for a guy like him who, yes, Taguchi is decidedly dad status right now, but Fujita's never picked up a pinfall over him. He is, one of the winningest and longest tenured juniors in the company. So for a young guy returning from excursion or still on a quasi excursion like Kosei Fujita to get that big pinfall victory is that's a feather in his cap, and that's a big win.
Yeah, definitely, and we will kind of see where that would play out later on in the show. So yeah, a nice win there for Fujita, and this was one of the first times in a while that Zack and Despy shared a ring since Suzuki-gun broke up, and so they kind of played into that history there in the match, and then post-match it kind of shook hands there as well. So nice little preview match, and we had a question here from Twitter follower at Halos_Flosion. Thoughts on the usage of ZSJ?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, I definitely would have liked to have seen Zach do something a little more substantial coming off of his victory over Bryan Danielson and his relinquishing of I guess loss of the New Japan World Television title. It did seem like in January that was a situation where he was failing up. It was time for him to kind of come off that belt on a big show and maybe be aimed for something a bit higher. And, it was hard to say exactly what that would be, but he picks up a huge singles victory over Bryan Danielson. Major singles victories over top AEW talent in New Japan are very hard to come by. So, I would have imagined that there would have been some better follow-up, but at the same time, you kind of read the tea leaves and you look at the schedule and you kind of see the trajectory of everything. And me and Jeremy have said this for a while now that like we're at a point with Zach where if Zach is fighting for the world title, he needs to win the world title. He's not in a position where he is just cannon fodder or defense of the month material for the title. As much as people want to put him in that position, if he's not going to win it, then it's not going to help him. And I'm not saying this to defend the company, but you have to take a look at their plans, and they've got this big match in Chicago planned between Jon Moxley and Naito. So whoever was going to win the New Japan Cup in March / April, they weren't going to beat Naito. So it kind of made sense why they didn't put Zach in that position. And then, what else are you going to do with him? Because everybody else is kind of tied up. You've got Nick Nemeth holding the white belt hostage and not defending it against anybody but Tanahashi. Tanahashi already lost the TV title and somehow himself failed up to being the number one contender for the white strap. And a lot of the stars are gone. So there's not like big money programs that you could be thrusting him into in the meanwhile. It's just, we're in a very precarious time, and it's kind of weird. It is weird usage. I do admit it, but I think a lot of people want him to be pushed as the foreign ace of the company. And maybe that is still coming, although it sort of feels like they're gearing up David Finlay more for that than Zach. I don't know why, but it's a little perplexing, but I also see why they haven't gone, because for better or for worse, New Japan and more so Gato, they're handcuffed to the booking, patterns that he has crafted for himself.
Yeah, it's kind of like we mentioned last week. We felt like Zach was being put on the back burner, and I feel like it seems like Gato kind of knows the point that we're making. Like if Zach's challenging for the championship, like he needs to win, and clearly that's not in the cards right now. And so, yeah, there's not really a good spot to put him in, and I don't think he's a guy you want to put all the way back down into like the Never division. I mean, he could easily go there, and him and Shingo have great matches. I mean, you could do something like that, but I feel like, especially like you mentioned, after beating Bryan Danielson, he needs to either be global champion or the world champion. And right now, both of those pictures are kind of tied up. So you kind of keep him on the back burner. You got Super Juniors is coming up in May, so heavyweights are not going to even be a real focus in May, so you kind of keep him in the back burner. He can win some undercard tags here, and then you can heat him up for whenever you're finally going to pull the trigger, either getting him in that global picture or the world picture. And then, he has a TV title match coming up with Matt Riddle this Friday at Windy City Riot, and we'll give our predictions for that show. But I mean, we talked about it last week. They could go a 15-minute draw there to protect him and not have him lose, and then you kind of keep him hot for when you pull the trigger.
Yeah, I think the bigger question isn't how he's been used thus far. It's going to be how he's used down the road. Are they going to go to bat for him? Are they going to strap him up? Are they going to put him in the main event? And they should. But I'm not 100% confident or sold that that's where we're going with this, even though it felt like that in February.
Yeah. I do feel like he's a guy that you can do a big main event with him in a title match. Like, I feel like, he could be a guy that could be the one to beat Jon Moxley if they don't want Shooter to beat him, or you can put him in that title match at Forbidden Door or Dominion or one of these other bigger shows in the fall. So I think he definitely has the star power. He has the credibility. But like you said, are they actually going to do that? Devil's
advocate here. I know that we're really, both you and I, it's very clear we're convinced that, and let's not make any bones about it. I'm a Jon Moxley fan. I know you are. I wouldn't say he's my guy. Is he your guy?
He's not I wouldn't say he's like my number one favorite, but I like him a lot.
Yeah, I like him a lot too. But just to be clear, we're not like saying he's going to win the title because it's like, that's our fucking dude. And we're rallying for him. We're pulling for him. I think that that's what's happening for business reasons. Like, that's the prediction we have. If we're wrong, we'll own it. But I feel pretty confident that that's what's happening. If it's not, and let's say Naito retains, which he might, maybe him and Zach in California makes a little bit more sense. Maybe that's something we could do. Or maybe Zach could be the, G1 winner, be the first Gaijin winner since Kenny Omega. Or maybe he would be even able to take that belt off Naito, say Dominion time or Forbidden Door time. And maybe something like that, like him carrying it into the G1 would make sense. I don't know. Yeah. But I don't feel confident that, I'll just be honest with you, I have never felt confident that Zach is going to, not because he's not capable or deserving of it, because I think he's an incredible talent. And I think he's a guy the company needs to invest in. But I don't see him as somebody that the company is going to put the title or give the G1 to, and then have him go into Wrestle Kingdom to challenge for the title. I just don't think that's in the cards for him. So I think his best shot is to win it either before or after the G1, and not like winning the G1 and then going to the Dome and winning the title. I don't think that that's a scenario that's realistic for him, just based on the way the company sees him and the way they book foreign talent.
Yeah. I mean, they've had opportunity to kind of do stuff like that for him, and they haven't yet.
I don't think they see him as the type of draw that they can count on to headline the Dome in that sort of manner. Maybe if we were doing like a 2-night, double gold dash sort of situation, possibly, but we're kind of out of that phase in that era now. Like you said, the white strap, I think that's a very realistic possibility.
Right. Especially since the white belt's supposed to be, that champion goes and fights the world. And Zach does travel. He goes to America. He goes to Europe. He goes to Taiwan, Thailand, all these different places that they're going to. He would be a great person to take that title and defend it globally.
I would love to see Zach defend the white strap on the soft ground. Where is that they wrestle?
Uganda soft ground.
Yeah, go to Uganda, take on Lord White.
He would probably team with Lord White, right?
No, I don't think so, because I can't see Zack Sabre Jr. aligning himself with like somebody of the political nature of Lord White. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have diametrically opposed, philosophies. I mean, Zach's a great heel, but he's not going to go that route.
Zach's not racist.
Yeah, exactly. But, take the white strap to the Uganda soft ground, lock it up with those guys. Let's get it popping.
Could be fun. So following that, we had LIJ team of Bushi and Hiromu Takahashi defeating the team of David Finlay and Gato, 5 minutes and 39 seconds.
Yeah, another big win for Bushi. Again, he just picked up that victory over Hiromu. He picked up the win over Taka. Now he gets a victory over Gato. Unfortunately for David Finlay, just returning back from whatever health ailments he had. He did talk in the post-match about that, and basically said that New Japan was lying about his health status and essentially what was going on. And this is his recollection. Keep in mind, this is kayfabe, so I don't know how real life this actually is or not. But he said that the back of his neck wasn't pumping enough blood and oxygen to his brain, and so he was dealing with vertigo and dizziness, and they basically wouldn't clear him to wrestle. So he's kind of using that as part of his motivation to go after Tsuji, because saying that he was the favor to win the New Japan Cup and he was taken out of it and he was never beaten in the tournament, and just very frustrated with this loss here, trying to rebound and regain some momentum. But Bushi and Hiromu seem to be poised and on the path to challenging for the junior titles, which is something you've been speculating on for a while now.
Yeah, because they've been teaming up again recently, and they've picked up some wins on some undercards, and this kind of accomplished two things here. One, it continued Hiromu and Bushi winning as a team, and also continued Bushi winning in singles. He applied that modified figure four type maneuver on Gato to get the submission win. So Bushi picks up yet another win. So it seems like he's going to be a guy that's going to be focused on in Super Juniors, coming in with a lot of momentum. And then, we saw later on this show, post-match angle, that Hiromu and Bushi are putting themselves in line for the junior tag team titles.
Yeah, Bushi has a name that he is presenting for that maneuver. He's calling it the Fable, or just Fable, which was an awesome game I used to play on the Xbox back in the day. Did you ever play Fable?
I did not know.
I fucking love Fable. But he was like, I don't know if I'm going to get copyrighted on that, so we'll see. But that's the name of the move for now. So, but yeah, Bushi and Hiromu pick up the win here, and more junior goodness on the undercard of this show.
Yeah. Then following that, we had the Just Five Guys team of Doki, Sanada, and Yuya Uemura defeating the United Empire trio of Callum Newman, Great Okan, and Jeff Cobb, 8 minutes and 54 seconds.
Yeah, this was another decidedly high-octane, very action-packed, fast-paced undercard tag match. Good work here. What's funny, Jeremy, is I started the show from the fourth match on the official card up. So these first four matches beneath it, including the Frontier Zone, I didn't see those initially. I was running short on time because Mania weekend was crazy, and kind of juggling that between professional stuff and family stuff. It was a busy weekend. I'm tired, but I got back around to watching the undercard after the fact, because I was like, if anything, I need to see the important matches first, and then maybe circle back to this stuff. And I wasn't as impressed with the top of the card. And we'll talk about that. So I was sort of down on the show, but going back and rewatching these first four matches, I'm like, oh shit, like they were working really hard on these tag matches. Like, so the flow, if I'd watched from the beginning, the flow of the show might not have been as negative as I was on it on my first watch.
Yeah, I was a little bit off too, because I woke up around 5 a.m. towards the start of the junior tag title match. So I watched from that match on, and then I went back later and watched the first four match.
Oh, so we did the same thing,
yeah,
just for different reasons.
Yeah. Well, I knew that it was going to be a busy weekend, and like I had some stuff I was doing like Saturday during the day before WrestleMania. So I was like, I need to get up, watch the important stuff. I don't want to be spoiled. I want to watch it, and then do my stuff, and then watch Mania with y'all later. So that's why I did it. So, but yeah, this was another good matchup here. Yuya, he hits the crucifix driver on Great Okan to get the big win here. So this continues the momentum here of Yuya picking up wins, and now he pins the current KO PW champion.
Yeah, Yuya Uemura was not expected to, like, the way that the match was laid out and the way that everything was occurring. It really seemed like the United Empire had everything going their way handedly. They were doing the spot where they have Yuya Uemura in the corner, and they're all, for lack of I don't want to say running the train because that's not a but I'm for lack of a better terminology, but you know what I'm talking about, like where
the corner kind of parade kind of thing.
The corner, the corner, that's why you're the professional here. They got the corner parade, and they're laying him out, and it looks like Okan is about to have him isolated and maybe start going to work and laying him out for the finish. And Newman and Cobb go outside to stop Doki and Sonata from entering because they think that Okan has Uemura handedly beat. And then suddenly out of nowhere, Uemura just rolls this man up with the crucifix, 1, 2, 3, picks up the unexpected victory. Okan, pushing him afterwards, not accepting reality, just being a little bitch. And and Uemura grabbing the KOPW title, making it very clear that he has his own aspirations and his sights set on that title. So I'm not necessarily loving. I love the work from Uemura and all of that, and I think it's great that they're pushing him. I'm not sold on the Heatstorm presentation, or even the character stuff that's going on. I felt like he still needed for that terminology, a new coat of paint after the hair loss, and maybe that is still coming down the pipeline, but at least they are going in some direction with him. And right now that direction is challenging Okan, and hopefully we don't wind up with a super trash stipulation here. So we get something that is deserving of Uemura's talents.
I could do another hair match.
I don't think because Okan does have the braid, although the braid's been cut before.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, but I don't think they should do that. That's probably not going to draw money.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to the next match, we had the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team title match. The Bullet Club War Dogs of Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney successfully defended their titles against Catch 22, Francesco Akira and TJP, and the Intergalactic Jet Setters of Kevin Knight and Kushida in 17 minutes and 29 seconds.
Yeah, Jeremy, this is one that we were dead wrong on. Last week, I think both of us really were anticipating a new champion here with the Intergalactic Jet Setters picking up that victory. But Maloney and Clark Connors, the War Dogs, they were able to pick up that victory and really establish themselves as very dominant champions in this division.
Yeah, and this match was awesome. Like we mentioned, this was a tornado tag team rule, so you just had all 6 of these guys in and out of the ring, flying all over the place. Like you mentioned, War Dogs looked very aggressive here. There's points toward the match where they kind of held the ring, and they were 2-on-1 on Kevin Knight for a while, and Kevin Knight came back with a big Pele kick. But yeah, there's a lot of great spots here. Kevin Knight doing the big dive from the ring to the crowd, everybody kind of fighting in the crowd there. So high pace, a lot of big moves, high action. This was a really, really fun matchup.
I thought this match was stellar. Just really, really, really incredible. Super impressed with the work from all 6 men. And for me, this was easily my match of the night. I'm like 4.25 plus on it. Maybe I'm not quite 4.5, but I mean, I thought that this was a real contender for tag match of the year so far.
Yeah, I was also like 4.25.
It was just awesome. And very, very high action, but not just that. There's also, I'm not a huge fan of triple threats because there's a lot of tropes. There's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of moving parts, and it's really hard for anybody to craft a super fluid and compelling triple threat match, much less when you add another 3 guys to it. So now you've got 6 men. There's just a lot of possibilities for things to go awry. And the way that they were able to craft this match and mix in the hard brawling style and the high flying and keep everything together. I mean, this was a masterclass in this style of scramble tag match. And like you said, I liked the psychology where Drill Maloney and Clark Connors were using their size and strength to cut off the ring many times and basically work babyface and peril spots with several of the guys, most notably Kevin Knight, which is probably one of the things that led to them picking up the victory. But there was a lot of psychology involved here too. So the story elements, but sometimes people hear that terminology, they hear storytelling, story elements, psychology, and they think it's, they think it's also known as boring. And that's not so much the case for me. The best matches with great psychology are the best matches of all time. And this match had great psychology and there was a reason for everything that everybody was doing in this match. And there were so many great near falls. This was a match the crowd really came to life for. And I know that this division is known for having great matches like this, but it seems like it's been a really long time since there's been, this many great tag teams all competing at this high of a level simultaneously. So I was blown away here, and I didn't expect the War Dogs to get the win, but it was deserved. And Drill Maloney got his eardrum burst.
Yeah, he did, which kind of explained what happened post-match. But yeah, this match, there was a lot of urgency. I feel like a lot right now, there's a lot of matches in wrestling where you don't have that big urgency, and these guys are working really high pace here, and there's so many believable near falls here. Towards like the 10-minute mark, you had the War Dogs hitting their kind of high-low combo for a great near fall. You had TJP spinning the miss in Drilla's eyes, and then him and Akira did the knee for a great near fall as well. You had Kushida getting a victory roll on TJP for another near fall. They did Kushida and Kevin Knight were doing a lot of Motor City Machine Gun combo moves as well. And you said all these great kind of back and forth near falls that were hitting all their big double team maneuvers, and if somebody would come in and break up and save it. And so yeah, the near falls are really, really great. And then towards the end here, they end up hitting the full clip, the War Dogs, on Kushida to get the big win. And like you mentioned, post-match, Drill kind of storms off looking very pissed off, and we would find out via his Instagram story that he burst his eardrum, and he blamed it on Kushida.
Yeah, I don't know what Kushida did or if that's where it occurred. I haven't rewatched the match, and I wasn't privy to any injuries that occurred in the match on my initial watch. I would like to kind of see what caused it, if there was something in particular. But I watched the post match, and Maloney just went on a tirade, bro. Like he's great. Like, and it's funny how a year ago during the Super Juniors, people were questioning whether he even deserved to be in the tournament or be in this company, and the corner he's turned, and he was great then, but he's vastly improved over the course of the past year. And him and Clark Connors are one of my favorite tag teams, just in general, not just in New Japan. I like, to steal a phrase from friends over at the flagship, they say dumb jock energy. That's what these two motherfuckers have. They got big, powerful muscles. Like, if I told you what some of my favorite tag teams of all time are, Road Warriors, Sting and Luger,
Steiners,
the Steiners, that's kind of like the energy Maloney and Clark Connors bring to the junior division. And they're just running roughshod over everybody. And it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
One thing, TJP, he debuted a new version of the Oswong, which wasn't the masked version, but it was a face painted version, but clearly like an allusion to the Oswong. And I liked this so much more than the mask gimmick. So, I think that he was playing 4D chess, because if he had debuted just the face paint and the mist at Wrestle Kingdom, I probably would have shit all over it. But because he debuted a way worse version of it, now he's able to set the expectations for what are terrible so high that when he brings it down to this, I'm like, okay, I'm accepting of it. I would rather he just do this all the time when he wants to pull out the big match gimmick.
Yeah, the presentation was a lot better here, a little bit more subtle while still having it. He can still shoot the miss. So Yeah, it looked better here, but yeah, this was an awesome match. I'm also 4.25 on it. We had a question here from Les Commission 7252. Says Okan chewed out TJP, calling himself the captain, but has lacked the results of wins. Is this setting up TJP being kicked out of UE if he doesn't win the Best of Super Juniors, or him winning Best of Super Juniors to keep his spot in UE?
Yeah, and he's not the only one either. Jeff Cobb was on commentary for this match, and he also had words for TJP post-match, which, I've been critical of the storyline of him being the quote-unquote captain of the team and everything like that. Did you see the comments from Okan or not?
Yeah, I saw the post-match, and yeah, essentially, he was like, Ospreay and I created the United Empire as equals. There wasn't any, leaders, but no, now you're trying to call yourself the captain and you're not bringing results. So yeah, Okan kind of dropping the hammer on him. Like, yeah, like you mentioned, Jeff Cobb joined commentary for the rest of the show after his match. And yeah, after the match, TJP kind of walked by and Cobb was like, you want to be the captain, man, but you got to show results, man. And so there's a lot of kind of pressure there on TJP. He's trying to claim this mantle, and he say he's carrying the crown, but it seems like the crown is too heavy for TJP, and there's some pressure kind of cracking here on the United Empire.
Yeah, I now that there's people actually saying like you have to perform if you want to call yourself the leader. Like, we're not just gonna follow some schmo who's like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Heavyweight, middle, heavyweight, junior, I'll go up and down, I'll do whatever it takes, doesn't matter, I'll cross any barrier. But like, you're not winning the matches. And now that there's actual juice to the story, I'm in on it. I like this now because there's people that are actually in the group that are like, the fuck are you doing, bro? And so I like that. And I don't know, I hadn't considered the idea that it was setting him up for a win. But I got to tell you, I don't think that he's winning. If I was a betting man, which I'm generally not, because I don't know how, but it involves computers, I think, and I'm not the most tech savvy. But if I was putting money on this tournament, if I could get some odds, and if I could find a sports book that would give me odds on the best of the Super Juniors, I would not be putting my money on TJP. I don't see them putting him in a very prominent position on a huge show like Dominion.
Right. Maybe if Super Juniors had its own standalone finals. I mean, they did do Watto versus Teton last year in its own thing. And maybe if it was its own arena, maybe I could see TJP getting to the finals and maybe even winning it. Almost kind of like a goal watch moment for him. But with that match being on Dominion, and especially with the championship being with Show and House of Torture, I feel like you need, a really, really strong babyface coming out of that tournament if Show's going to still be the champion. So, and it's kind of way too early for predictions, and we'll talk about the lineup here in a second. But, a guy like Robbie Eagles is somebody I'm looking forward to potentially, winning a really top, great babyface that hasn't been that big spotlight yet. I think is a guy that I'm looking forward to winning.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get there when we get there. But it's going to be there's quite a few names in that tournament, and I think that this is kind of an open field this year.
Yeah. We had a question here from Barry Walsh. We pretty much answered it. He was asking about why Drill looked pissed off post-match, but yeah, he busted his eardrum. So moving on to the next match, we had the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team title match. Bishamon, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi, they defeat the Bullet Club team of Chase Owens and Kenta in 13 minutes and 51 seconds to become the new IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions.
Ding dong, the witch is dead. Goto and on the one hand, I'm glad because we had to get the fucking titles off of Owens and Kenta, but at the same time, there is a part of me that's like, we're back here again. Like we did the whole entire tournament in December and early November, December, just to get, the double titles onto God. And now God dropped him in their first defense. And now we're just back to Bishamon all over again. So it's sort of like, I don't know. It's like a dog chasing its own tail. The match itself, I don't think it wasn't terrible. It also wasn't great. It was just kind of there,
Yeah, I mean, just about almost 14 minutes. It wasn't too long, wasn't too many shenanigans, and Bishamon won. And I know people are not super thrilled or super excited about that call, but it's better than having Chase and Kenta as the champions, and Bishamon has kind of been the rock and foundation of this tag team division over the last several years now, and hopefully we can kind of get back to something a little bit more interesting with them as champions.
Yeah, but I kind of feel like it's sort of like, okay, yeah, it is better, but it's not the best we could be doing considering how many great tag teams were in the December tournament and everything like that. And how well this division's been booked over the past couple of years for them to have a huge snafu and misstep by putting the titles on these guys and just kind of icing them just so we could get back to where we were to begin with. It seems like an exercise in futility. And I do agree with you, Jeremy. It is better. So I see what you're saying, but it's also like they're the bookers. Just book better.
Right.
You didn't have to get us here in the first place.
Yeah, it seems like they were taking, one step back to try to move forward here. And I don't know if, Chase and Kenta were promised this title run for some reason or what the deal was. But yeah, like you mentioned, they have the book. They can book something intriguing. And we know that tag team wrestling has never really been Gato's focus over the years. But I mean, they have, talented tag teams. You go back to that World Tag League lineup end of last year. There was a lot of really fun and entertaining teams there. And I think there's so much more they could be doing with that division. But so now I think, going back to Bishamon is a step backwards, but they need to make that step so they can do something interesting. And we do have their next challengers coming up this weekend at the Wrestling World Show in Taiwan, which we'll get to that preview as well. But yeah, they get the win here with Shoto, and Goto was also kind of able to redeem losing in the New Japan Cup Finals because they showed that in the BTR, and so rebounded for the win, got the titles back, and they will be moving on to defend the titles this weekend. So following that, we had the announcement for the Best of the Super Juniors 31. So the lineup is as follows: the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion Sho, Hiromu Takahashi, Ryusuke Taguchi, El Desperado, Kevin Knight, Yo, Bushi, Teton, TJP, Francisco Akira, Doki, Robbie Eagles, Taiji Ishimori, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, Clark Connors, Drilla Maloney, Kosei Fujita, Blake Christian, Ninja Mac, and Hayata. And we had a question here from Copper Squire. What are your thoughts on the Boss J participants this year, and what should be the direction of the Junior Championship for the latter part of the year?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, the only real couple omissions that I was sort of hoping for, because in years past we've had a lot of like outsiders in the tournament. I remember 2 years ago where we had champions from all these different companies, and they do have some outside participants, which I think they've got some great additions. But I kind of thought maybe like they might have a TNA representative, namely Mustafa Ali, which isn't happening. So I thought that was a little surprising. And then I sort of thought even though Blake Christian, he is kind of an AEW guy, he's technically Ring of Honor. I kind of thought maybe we'd get an AEW guy. We didn't, which I guess in some ways is probably okay because there's always the the politics game. That's always, very questionable when that happens. But by and large, I think this is a great field because, I mean, realistically, you've got how many guys here? 20?
Yeah.
So 10 in each block, it looks like. And realistically, you only have 4, maybe 5 outsiders. But I mean, 2 of those guys, Kevin Knight, I guess technically Kevin Knight is kind of Impact, even if he's not branded as such. Teton is CMLL, but he works extensively in New Japan as well. And then you've got Blake Christian from Ring of Honor. That's his first time competing in this tournament, but he's worked with New Japan extensively over the past few years. So it's sort of like a little bit of a gold watch, I think, just kind of paying him back for all the great work he did with the New Japan Strong brand during the pandemic. And then you've got Ninja Mac and Hayata from Noah, which, admittedly, I'm not the most knowledgeable individual when it comes to Hayata. I've seen him a handful of times, but Ninja Mac is a guy we've seen many, many times. And I'm always highly impressed with his athleticism. And I think he's probably, in my estimation, the most exciting addition.
Yeah, I was watching this, live in the morning, and they're flashing through the people. I'm like, yeah, expected. And then they show Ninja Mac. I'm like, oh boy, let's go. We first saw Ninja Mac and Ebor here during WrestleMania weekend 2021 when everybody was kind of running outside shows, and it was a midnight show. And this man, Ninja Mac, was just flipping all over the place in the streets of Ebor. And since then, watched him and seen clips and stuff like that. Super athletic, very talented guy. He's been doing a lot of good stuff in Pro Wrestling Noah, so that's a really fun addition. Looking forward to that. But yeah, overall, I really like this feel. Like you mentioned, I was kind of expecting maybe Mustafa Ali to be in since he's facing Hiromu this Friday. Also kind of weird to see no Kushida there as well.
Yeah, there's no Kushida. I was just reading it and I was like, oh, there's no Kushida, but there's Kevin Knight. But they geeked out Kushida so many times now that it makes sense.
Right, which I guess at this point I'm not super upset about that, but it's kind of weird. But yeah, last year he kind of won that losing streak, and he was not booked as like a former winner of this tournament or a former champion. So if you had to pick between him or Knight, I would rather get Knight in there, get him more experience and spotlight. And so yeah, a lot of really good names here, and I think we're going to be in for some really fun, high-flying matches. So looking forward to seeing the block. As far as the direction of the junior championship, I think we need to get the title on somebody who's more interesting, and it's going to put on great matches. And I guess we'll talk about that title match up next, but I think we need to get the belt off a show as soon as possible.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the next match, and we can kind of talk about the direction of the division.
Yeah, so after the announcement, 7-match IWGP Junior Heavyweight title, Sho defeats Joe by ref stoppage, 1 minute and 36 seconds. So Yo ended up dislocating his shoulder right in the beginning of the matchup, and ref immediately stopped the match, called it off, and Sho was awarded the match.
Yeah, immediately the tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist in me started wondering, like, is this even real? Is this like, remember Alexa Bliss? She had the double jointedism where she was able to kind of like make her arm look broke, and they were able to play that up. And I was like, maybe this man is, Yo's weird. Maybe he can pop his shoulder out and we don't know about it. Like, I know it sounds far-fetched, but I literally worked with a dude who could pop his shoulder out of socket. As strange as that sounds. So that's maybe one reason I was like, but then I was like, but why? Why would they do that?
Right. Yeah. What would be the purpose of this? Yeah.
But then again, we don't know. I mean, if this was a serious injury, we don't know if Yo's even going to be in the Super Juniors to begin with. So, I don't know. I'm not a health expert. I can't say he's definitely for sure going to be out or in one way or the other, but it looked serious enough to where I think it's a realistic possibility that he doesn't, make it for the tournament. I do have other thoughts, but let me put my dog away and I'll be right back. You take it over, Jeremy.
Yeah, so it was just a really weird part of the match here. I mean, he does a plancha to the outside and then runs back in, and he goes for a standard sliding drop kick and came down awkwardly on his shoulder, and so that popped it out of the socket there. So, yeah, I don't know the severity of the shoulder injury, but yeah, he could be missing the tournament. I mean, it did seem pretty seriously. You saw his shoulder sticking out, and they had to, walk him to the back. So, hopefully it's a speedy recovery and he comes back soon. But yeah, it looked pretty nasty, and it's always the simplest of moves. There was that one time Pac, injured his ankle off a baseball slide, and sometimes the simplest moves in wrestling can cause some injuries.
He was just posting. He's just posting, and I don't know. Like, I don't know who to blame, or it looked like just a freak accident, but shifted the wrong way, weight went the wrong way, body didn't want to cooperate, and his shoulder popped out and looked really painful. I didn't hear everything that you said, but it seemed to me like heartbreaking for the guy, because for better or for worse, as much as especially like Western fans who want to see great matches and work rate classics, there is a story here where these guys did team together, and the plan and the aspiration had always been that they face one another on a major stage for the IWGP Junior title. And yeah, they've fought in big arenas, they've even wrestled on Wrestle Kingdom and stuff like that, but they've never fought for the title. And sure, Show won the title by some of the shittiest means possible. But this was sort of a dream for both of those guys, and it was dashed in just a matter of moments. And Jeremy, I can assure you, as much as people at this point don't want to see that match, they have. And again, I think some of this is predicated on the idea that one or the other of them has to have the title at some point in the future for it to happen. But there's a return match coming down the pipeline. Because when somebody gets hurt like this, and there's money to be made off of it, and I think that they're going to do a return match at some point for sure, because of the drama that was established with the way he walked out, the unrealized dreams, the tears that he was crying. Like, people, especially in Japan, like the audience, the fan base for these guys, they eat that shit up. And I thought it was compelling myself. And I'm like, all right, like, granted, the match has never been good. Well, it's been good, but it's never been great. But they got something there now.
Yeah, this could be a happy accident, as people like to say, for this rivalry, because it's adding a lot of emotion there for this match, like you mentioned. And yeah, I think that this could add some intrigue here when Yo eventually comes back, and then you have him seek to get revenge for Show, and maybe you have him come back and be more serious, and maybe we get a better match out of this feud because of this injury.
Yeah, and I mean, there were allusions to their history in the build. Like, okay, I didn't love the idea of Yo stealing the belt and the shenanigans, the comedy behind it, but I did watch the pre-match interviews that both guys did, and there's some juice there. Sometimes I do wonder. I don't want to westernize New Japan, but one of the things that they do really, really, really well is they do these interview packages, and then they post it either on social media or on World. But so few people actually see that stuff, and it's almost hardly ever put on the actual wrestling shows. I think that they should, even if they got to splice and condense those down a little bit, it would be beneficial to put it on the actual show in some form or fashion, so people can see that build taking place, as opposed to just putting it on YouTube on one of their 3 channels. A lot of people don't realize how many channels New Japan has. They've got the world page, they got the US page, and then they got the actual Japanese page, and they don't all carry the same shit all the time. Like, you have to you have to dig and find this stuff, and sickos like us, like you and me, will find it. But it's like, damn, if I'm doing all this digging just to find an angle, like, just put it on the fucking show. That way, when I boot up Road to whatever, it's on there. Like, I'm sure you can afford to put a little couple minute video on a Road to show to show the people, like, whatever. But
yeah, that's a good point you mentioned, because I do feel like New Japan does get knocked for it's just wrestling. There's no promos, there's no interviews, there's no personality pieces. Well, if you find all the other stuff on the channels you mentioned, there's always all these interview pieces they do. Yep. There's all the written interviews on the website. There's stuff from the press conference. We even talk about the press conference. They do stuff at the press conferences all the time. Like, they do a bunch of talking stuff. It's just not always presented on the show. So if you're not plugged in, you miss that stuff sometimes. But if you are, it does help your enhancement of the story, the matches that they're telling.
But there is a compelling story there between Sho and Yo, where Yo was essentially saying that the reason that he was doing all the comedy shtick, and the reason why he stole the title, and the reason why he was messing so bad with Sho, was because he realized that the only way to really get his attention, to make him fight him serious, was to get under his skin. So he's playing mind games. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that until I watched that interview, and I'm like, okay, I don't love all the comedy stuff, but it kind of makes sense. And I was a little bit more sold on the idea of the title match. And this all occurred after last week's recording of Keepin' It Strong Style.
Yeah.
And then to see, and then for him to talk about how, like, when they were teaming together and them having traveled the world together, and, a lot of people don't realize, like, they were one of the few teams ever that went on excursion together. That's very rare for two guys to go and do the excursion as a team. Mm-hmm. And, one of the greatest junior tag teams in the history of New Japan. And then, the split up has sucked. The follow-up, the feud has sucked. But we finally got here. We, come hell or high water, we got to this match. And the guy blows his fucking shoulder out. It's terrible. I do think that there's money in a return match, but it's just cursed. Like, I don't know. And good on Sho for healing it up the entirety of an unfortunate accident, because he never broke character. He stayed as a heel, and he kept, working the heat,
Yeah, he kept kind of antagonizing the crowd, and really kind of played into it as they try to figure out, what they're going to do next. And as the refs and docs were attending to Yo and getting him out of there. So yeah, he did a good job kind of carrying that. And then that led into I'm assuming, which was always planned, the post-match angle. You had Kosei Fujita rolled into the ring. He was kind of sitting in the ring for a while before they went through with the angle. So he was sitting there. And then he, made his claims for wanting to challenge Sho for the title. And then you had Doki come in, and Doki came in, and he also made his claim for wanting to be in the title match. And then they end up clearing Sho out of the ring, and Fujita grabs a belt, and it seems like there was the challenge made between Doki and Vegeta, and the winner would challenge Sho.
Yeah, so I mean, at that point, I'm pretty sure that we'll get into it, but we're tracking down the route to having these two guys square off against one another for the right to face Sho, but both of them have compelling reasons to be the challenger for Sho. So I am wondering if one of two things happens. Either A, there's some sort of shenanigans that occurs during their singles match in Taiwan with one another that necessitates the two of them both being challengers, and we wind up in a triple threat situation of sorts. Or similar situation, there's some sort of shenanigans, one of them wins, and then the loser perhaps does really well in Super Juniors, maybe even finals, maybe even wins it.
Yeah, they could do a scenario here where the winner does end up winning a title, and then you have that person beat them in Super Juniors, and then you do a trilogy, and then the third match is for the title. So you could
wait, say that to me again.
So, for example, let's just say Vegeta beats Doki, and then you have Vegeta beat Sho. But then you have Vegeta and Doki in the same block. Doki beats Vegeta, a non-title tournament match, and then you do a third match of Doki versus Vegeta for the title.
See, you're speculating on an entire scenario that negates Show continuing to be the champion going into Super Juniors. I'm not.
I'm just saying that's an option if they want to do more of a story here. But I could easily see Show continuing being the champion and retaining in the Super Juniors.
Sure. Definitely. And I mean, I guess, we have some questions here. I guess maybe we should get to those too. But the whole thing is a little bit convoluted because right now we're heading into May. Then we've got Super Juniors right after Dantaku, right? And so the main three players for the title are Fujita, Doki, and Sho. None of those guys, in my estimation, right now are strong enough candidates to be strong champions heading into the tournament. So my feeling is no matter what happens, and I'm likely leaning towards Sho retaining and being, because he's the most established of the three. I think he just makes the most sense to cheat and continue to be champion going into the tournament. But none of those guys are strong candidates to headline tournament matches night after night after night throughout the tournament. So I think what's going to wind up happening is Sho just retains somehow. And we wind up with a scenario where whoever it is, whether it's Desperado or Hiromu, one of those two guys is going to be in the same block as him, maybe both of them. And they're going to be the real headliner throughout the tournament. And he's just going to be like a co-main event type guy with the title for a majority of the tour. And maybe that's needed because they're trying to sort of rebuild the tournament, the division, and not make it so much of a two-headed snake, the way it's been the past few years.
Yeah, and we've seen it in the past where they have a not as strong champion be in the tournament, but then you have Hiromu and Doki and Desperado are doing all the main events. So,
did I say Doki earlier? I meant Desperado.
Yeah, Despi. So I mean, even if Sho is the one retaining, either way, he's not going to be in a bunch of main events. He'll probably be a lot semi-main. I'm sure he'll get one or two main, but he'll be in the same block as either Hiromu or Despi, and those guys will be the ones that are main eventing all the shows. And again, he could also be a non-factor too, with the finals being at Dominion and the champion not even having to be in the finals. So he could still be the champion. He'll be a complete non-factor in the main events, in the finals, and Dominion.
Yeah, agreed.
So we had a few questions here. First from friend of the show, Dan Coffin. He says, is Yo vs. Sho the most cursed rivalry in NJPW history?
I don't know if I'd say that. But yeah, this was unfortunate.
Yeah. Discord Daddy says, does Doki win the junior strap this year?
I don't know, but depending on the fallout with the heavyweight title and what Dominion looks like is going to kind of determine a little bit more my predictions for Super Juniors. Cause I feel like, the winners of the tournament and the potential challengers for the title need to be stronger if in fact the world title isn't being defended at Dominion. But if it is being defended at Dominion and you just need semi-strong contenders, then maybe there's a possibility of a Fujita or a Doki going to a final or even winning or challenging this year. We've seen title changes happen in past years in the back half of the year. I recall Robbie Eagles and who's the other guy I'm thinking of? Who is the Bull Club Junior? Ishimori. We've seen both of those guys pick up late year wins of the title heading into Wrestle Kingdom. So I don't think it's impossible with Doki picking up steam, picking up the win over Hiromu, that maybe you do decide now's the time to elevate him to that status. Yeah. But Fujita also seems poised too.
Yeah, but I think Doki does have the bigger win with beating Hiromu earlier this year. And so obviously beating a former champion, former tournament winner. This could be the year to give Doki a win. And I mean, you don't have to give him a super long, Roman Reigns title run with the title. I mean, he could win the title and drop it pretty quickly. But I think Doki has worked super hard. He's improved year after year. I think he would be a great champion, even for a short run. Next question from Rambone Slam Pig. Can we stick a fork in the show versus show rivalry at this point? No good can come of it. Gato wished on a cursed monkey paw to make them single stars.
I think I pretty much answered that earlier, where I feel very confident based on the outcome of this match that absolutely not. They're going to do a rematch. The big question is whether or not the title is still involved or not. And, if Yo is in that tournament, and I just want to throw this out there so I'm early, if Yo can't make the tournament, I feel like Musashi would be a really good candidate to replace him in that event. But who's to say Yo doesn't win Super Juniors and challenge Show for the title? At this point, it would almost be poetic.
Yeah, so if he's clear to win, I mean, that's definitely a direction you could go in and have this kind of come from behind. You could do the whole losing streak. He's hurt, so he goes 0-3, and then he reels off 6 wins. What?
We've done that with him before, though.
Yeah, but I don't know. The shoulder looked a pretty serious injury. I'm having high doubts that he's going to make it.
I was nervous about them popping it back in. I don't remember who it was, but there was an MMA fighter recently where they did that to him and they fucked his shoulder up way worse. And instead of they were like, you should have just waited to take him to the doctor, because they did like semi-permanent damage to his shoulder by popping it back in that way. So I don't know. I was a little nervous. I saw them with the towel and them yanking on it. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. So following that, we had a tag match up here with Jon Moxley teaming up with Shota Umino to defeat the House of Torture team of Jack Perry and Ren Narita.
Yeah, so they're going to show the footage from Jack Perry versus CM Punk on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jon Moxley and Shota Umino had an incredible entrance in Sumo Hall. And one thing I wanted to touch base on, a couple things. Number one, they really hyped up the idea that this was a sellout crowd for Sumo Hall, which is like, okay, sure, you're at capacity for the setup, but they did like 6,600 or something like that. Bro, this building holds 11K. We've seen them do Sumo Hall shows ranging in the 9 to a good show during their heyday was 9 to 10K. They were up.
They sold out the tickets that they put on sale.
Sure, and that's fine, but it's also not real. You know what I mean? It's like you said, you have it's just like what we saw with Windy City Riot. They sold out the first day or whatever. So then they opened up more seats, and then they sold that out, and then they opened up the top end, and they haven't sold out yet, but they're close to 7K, which is great. But clearly it's not a real, sellout, because the building holds more. And one other thing I noticed, and they were up year over year by 123 tickets. But I'm crazy for saying that New Japan isn't doing the same kind of business they did in the past, because they're up year over year, even if in their heyday they did 9 or 10K upwards all the way up to 11K here. Did you notice that the production in Sumo Hall was very, very different than how it normally is?
I didn't really notice.
The configuration was very different, and the way they shot it, and I'm not even saying that's bad, but it just wasn't quite what it just wasn't set up the way it normally is for their production, which I wasn't bad. It just was a little jarring, because I'm used to a certain setup, because I've been watching the product for so many years. But this is the same building that Jon Moxley had debuted in when he first made his Super Juniors arrival. And so to see him and Shota Umino do the big entrance and the walkout and showing up in the crowd, people want to see this man show up at WrestleMania. if you wanted to see him walk out like he's a member of the Shield, just all you had to do was watch the Sakura Genesis card. He walked out like a member of the Shield.
Right.
He walked out to the crowd.
Just drop your 999 yen. Yeah, you can see him, the mashup music with the Death Rider music and Shooter's music.
I don't think it's 999 yen anymore. I think for you and me, because we're grandfathered in, I think for like new subscribers in the States, I think it's $999.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the match was fine. I didn't think it was like blow away. It wasn't maybe up to the same level as like, you know, when Jon Moxley shows up in New Japan, you sort of expect like a certain level of work and you're like, oh, like, you know, like when JR used to say like business is about to pick up. That's kind of how you feel when Mox comes out. And like, don't get me wrong, this was good, but it wasn't quite what I'm normally used to seeing out of and it wasn't, I don't blame Jon Moxley. I kind of just, again, I'm still on the same kick. I don't think Jungle Boy connects with the audience that well. One thing I did hear someone say, they pointed out how the size differentiation, we always blame it on the company. We're always like, the company's not willing to push juniors as heavyweights, but they were like, you know, there's a conditioning that's gone on there for many years, and like the public doesn't see junior like guys that are in that junior frame as heavyweights, especially when they're not established stars. And Jack Perry at this point is not an established star. That might account for some of the lack of response to him in general.
Yeah, that could definitely play a big part in that. And I thought though Moxley was super over. There was definitely a big Moxley chants throughout the match, and crowd was really digging him. And it was a fun back and forth matchup. Jack Perry was doing some shout outs to the Young Bucks. He did the Locomotion Northern Lights suplex. He did Nick Jackson's apron kick spot. So he was definitely, you know, throwing shout outs to them. And last Wednesday on Dynamite,
the CM Punk elbow drop and gave the middle finger to everybody in the crowd.
Yeah. Last Wednesday on Dynamite, the Young Bucks were like, you know, scapegoat, we love your work, when they were walking down to the ring. So clearly there's, you know, something going on there. And there's actually a question that I forgot to put on the rundown here from Impressive Talk 3439. Says, with AEW claiming they'll be airing the incident involving Perry and CM Punk, there's a lot of talk of Jack Perry joining the Elite. What if instead this leads to the Elite joining House of Torture? Are you excited for a potential House of Torture version of Okada?
I don't think that's going to happen. We covered that last week, but that is a funny. We got a question just like that last week, but it's funny.
Yeah. I think, like we mentioned last week, I think what will happen is like he'll go back to AEW, he'll join the Elite, and then they'll never mention him being a part of House of Torture ever again.
But the one way I will tie everything into New Japan, so they're showing the footage of the Punk shit, which like we're not going to dive into it. If you guys want to hear the breakdowns, listen to One Nation Radio, listen to Trish and Sarah, listen to All Things Elite, listen to Tunnel Talk. We got 4 different shows on this network that break down AEW. And if you want top-notch WWE coverage, Imp is your guy.
Yeah.
30 minutes. The one show we got to cover. I think he said this week he's going to do an hour, which is great. Really enjoying his show, but we're not going to dive deep into all that. But I will say this. I think it's a mistake. I don't think they should do that shit. If I'm wrong, I'll be proven wrong. We'll see. But they're showing the Punk footage involving Jack Perry on Wednesday, and on Friday, Jack Perry is wrestling in Chicago. It's kismet. It's perfect timing.
Yeah,
for
dude,
everything.
That he's going to have so much heat going in that building. Like, that is a one benefit for us for the New Japan side of things. Like, he's going to get so much heat that match is going to be, the crowd's going to be so behind Shooter. They're going to want him to beat Jack Perry so badly. And so I think it's kind of a great scenario for him and kind of what he's doing and for overall for this rivalry. So I think it'll help Shooter get a good reaction. I think it'll help the whole match have a lot of heat. So that's one good thing.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. John Moxley had some funny post-match comments where he was like, the fuck were they attacking me with? Why do they got a piece of wood with metal all over it? And like, he's talking about the push-up bar. And he's like, they crafted some shit in woodcraft shop and are attacking people with it. He's like, I could fashion a weapon in wood shop. Like, what the fuck? He's like, they attacked me with a birdhouse. Like, what the hell?
So yeah, Moxley hits the Death Rider on Narita to get the pin. And another interesting note, we didn't really get much interaction between Moxley and Jack Perry in this match. There was a few kind of small striking sequences, but for the most part, they were kind of stayed away from each other. So interesting.
I wasn't even paying attention to that, to be honest with you. So that's pretty interesting.
So then following that, we move to the semi-main event of the evening, the Never Open Weight title match, and the Dragon, Shingo Takagi, defeats Evil 21 minutes and 14 seconds.
Yeah. Again, ding dong, the witch is dead. Like, I guess I'm glad that Evil has finally been vanquished. This was far from my favorite Shingo Evil match or interaction that they've had with one another, but people kind of forget, but a lot of history there. These guys teamed together for quite a while in LIJ. Now, opposite ends of the spectrum, face heel alignment. Evil's, he caused Shingo to be ousted from the New Japan Cup. Most recently, last year, he also defeated him in the semifinals for the G1 or for the quarterfinals or whatever. Evil's just kind of been a thorn in the side of Shingo for quite a while now. And so for Shingo to pick up the victory here was very satisfying, but ref bump. Then we get Kanemaru in there with the ref shirt, but he's not really a referee, and all the House of Torture shenanigans. But then LIJ comes in, and thank God that they're not following the old protocol where they just leave their dude out there to get murdered. I don't know. Like, it was fine. And like, I feel like the first time that these two guys had a major match most recently at the G1 finals, and they did all the run-ins and everything, the drama was really high. The stakes were really high. But as they've continued to have this match, it's been to diminishing returns. And I'm glad for the outcome. I think the audience was too, but it wasn't necessarily like the greatest thing in the world at this point, since we've already seen it 3 times in like the past 6 months.
Yeah. I too was happy to see Shingo win. And like you mentioned, they played into the whole referee thing. They had Kanemaru, he came out with the ref shirt, but it was made clear that he was not assigned the referee. And Cobb and Charlton made some jokes about him never going to ref school and having to ref independent matches and stuff like that. And so they did eject Kanemaru and Dick Togo at the beginning. But of course, that led them coming back and Kanemaru counting a pinfall, and Yujiro ringing the bell and thinking that he won the match. But, again, Kanemaru wasn't the official ref. But yeah, then you had LIJ coming out, Hiromu wearing a ref shirt and kind of playing ref for a while. They also did the whole thing with Dick Togo coming out with the Bushi mask again, like how he made his debut, and I mean very clearly not Bushi. But yeah, Hiromu came out with a referee shirt, and they came out and helped Shingo kind of get things back in order there. Shingo took a swig of the whiskey and sprayed it in Evil's eyes, and then Kanemaru threw powder in Evil's eyes. Shingo pretended like he was drunk from the whiskey, but he had a pumping bomber, and then a made in Japan, and Hiromu brought red shoes out, and he counted 3. 1, 2, 3. Shingo is the new Never champion. And then post-match, we had the War Dogs, Gabe Kidd, Clark Connors, and Drilla. They hit the ring. They attacked all of LIJ, and then we had just this epic, fiery promo from Gabe Kidd, and he's talking about how he spent so much time in New Japan, but now F New Japan, and he's going to take the Never title. And he was talking about Matt Riddle and Nick Nemeth, they're here, and everybody's wrestling like they're trying to be on Superstars or Main Event, like they're acting like the apron says level up, and he's just going off. And he's talking about Tanahashi. You're going to Tony Khan's office, you're pulling your pants down, telling him to do his worst, and he's just going off on this. And man, it was a great promo.
Yeah, I mean, Gabe's not everybody's cup of tea. It's something where you're either into the shtick or you're not. For me, I am. I love work shoot sort of stuff as long as it kind of toes a certain line, and I think so far he's effectively towed that line. But him basically calling out the issue with the quality of the product, where he was like, I used to love this lion mark, and this was a company I stayed back in, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but I stayed back during the pandemic and went through all this turmoil and went through mental anguish, and he mentioned his suicidal ideations, and he was like, and I sacrificed all that for this company and this blue mat and this lion mark. And for what? For for us to become like bitches of like ex WWE talent and AEW guys, like fuck that shit. Like,
yeah. And I'm like, and he buried like the Never title match. Like, this what we're doing now with this in the Never division.
yeah. Like, I loved it, and the idea that he's like next in line for the Never title is pretty fucking awesome. I don't know if that's really where we're going, but yeah. We'll see. Did you bring up the fake Bushi thing?
I did, yeah. That with Dick Togo coming back as Bushi, but clearly the same way he debuted and clearly not being Bushi.
Bullshit. But yeah, we got that whole thing, and so post match, in the back, essentially Shingo pretty much made it very clear that he's willing to fight Gabe Kidd and teach him a lesson, and Gabe wants Shingo, and that's a match I'm here for. So, if we can move past the trauma of the evil reign, I'm here for it.
Same. Lots of questions here. First, Sad Goal 8860 says Gabe Kidd's not wrong about the questionable relationship between New Japan and AEW, but why bring it up without follow through? Think anything will come from this? That said, if Mox beats Naito at Wintrust Riot, how does that benefit New Japan?
Honestly, it beats me. I can't sit here and say like, oh, he had this cleared through the office. I don't know that that's the case. And I don't know if there will or won't be repercussions from management in terms of what he said or how it's perceived or anything like that. But it does endear him to a certain segment of the audience that feels slighted or inferior in terms of the power dynamic between the two companies.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they could play up something for Forbidden Door for this, and Gabe Kidd is facing Eddie Kingston in the Riot Rules 8-man tag on Friday, and I'm sure he's probably going to get a strong title match, maybe at Resurgence. So clearly there is that kind of AEW rivalry that he has set there. Maybe you can even do something at Forbidden Door with him and Eddie Kingston. So maybe that's what's going to come from it. But overall, yeah, I don't know if anything else will, or also this segment was cleared, but did they know exactly what he was going to say? Maybe not. And yeah, maybe there will be punishment to come, but it was a great promo. And, we'll talk more about Moxley, what the benefits there if he beats Naito. So following that, Stale Burger Bun says, who did the better rah-rah speech, Gabe Kidd at Sakura Genesis or Adam Copeland on Dynamite?
I didn't watch that promo from Adam Copeland, so I couldn't tell you. But if I had to guess, Gabe Kidd, because I thought Gabe Kidd's promo was awesome. And I can't imagine. I like Edge, but I don't know if he did as good a promo.
Yeah, Cope's promo was pretty good. I mean, it's a little weird coming from him since he's still so new to AEW. Like, I think that might have been more effective coming from an AEW original, but it was still a good promo and it was effective. But yeah, I thought Gabe Kidd also way more intense, and you really kind of felt the energy there behind Gabe Kidd. Next question here from the Discord Daddy says, Gabe Kidd is right. The Never title is the true heart and soul of NJPW. Everyone hates the world title. The GHC title has no lineage and is being held hostage by a non-contracted American wrestler. The tag titles got put on Chase and Kenta. It's the only title worth fighting for. Tell me when I'm telling lies.
It is spray painted black and falling apart, though.
Yeah, I guess the Shingles did mention, I think in the press conference, that he did want to get a new design for the title.
No, he said he doesn't.
Oh, he doesn't? Okay.
He said he told President Tanahashi he doesn't need that shit, which means like they're not going to clear it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I don't know. I guess he's going to pull out some paint thinner and, you know, clean the title up. But it's like literally the side plate was falling off. Like the shit's falling apart.
Hopefully they do have a new one ready, and yeah, because that's Barry Wall says, do you think Gabe is in any danger of sailing too close to the win and actually upsetting someone with some of his comments? I was a little surprised he mentioned Tanahashi and the stabbing incident, for example, the other day.
Possibly. There's definitely, you know, segments of the audience that are not, especially in the Western fan base, that are not a big fan of his work. I'm one of them. I am a fan, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not in touch with the office, so I can't tell you what the general vibe. I guess we could ask around and see, but I'd rather just let it play out. See if he finishes the story.
Yeah. Let's move on to the main event here for the IWGP World Heavyweight title. The champion, Tetsuya Naito, defeats the Gene Blast, Yota Tsuji, 34 minutes and 26 seconds.
So, a couple things Jeremy, when I rate matches, for lack of a better term, I kind of rate matches based off vibe. You know, I know that like I try to be analytical and impartial here, but oftentimes I'll just be like, how did I feel when that was done? Did that, and not even me so much, but like, what did that feel like? And I'll be like, I felt like a 4. I felt like a 4.25. That felt like a 3, whatever. But lately, listening to guests we've had come on our show, listening to some outside, perspectives, I'm trying to entrench myself more and pay closer attention to the narrative that's being presented in front of me. Sort of similar to like, remember the old Showbuckle videos, and he would like do a really good job painting the picture of the story that's being told in the ring. I'm trying to do a little bit more of that, and I find it easiest to do that when you have a big main event style title match. That's usually the most time passes, the most fleshed out story is kind of presented. And so I'm a little torn because like the vibes for this match for me weren't like necessarily the highest, where I was like, holy fuck, I just saw like a classic. But the story, once I was paying attention to what they were presenting in terms of the story between Naito and Tsuji and the character work that was in front of me, I was kind of compelled that this was a great match. That being said, I'm probably like 4 stars here, maybe 4+. I thought it was a really, really, really good main event. Maybe not quite what I had wanted it to be. But the first, I actually stopped at the halfway point because I had a prior engagement I needed to get to. And so I got about halfway through the match. And at the halfway point, like Naito was in the midst of a long and lengthy control segment where he was primarily attacking the neck, which is nothing new. That's what he does in most matches, is because, the Destino attacks the neck. So does the Gloria. So does the Valencia. Like all these moves are aimed at destroying somebody's neck. And so that's just what he's always done. And I was kind of like, damn, he's kind of eating up Tsuji. And I was down on the match, but like when we saw each other on Saturday, I was like, I don't know, like I was sort of starting to get the vibe that like maybe Naito doesn't work so well with the underneath guys. And actually I might still be onto something, because I don't feel like he's the most giving guy when it comes to this Reiwa generation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I finished the match later on, and when I saw how the neck attack played into all of Tsuji's selling and his offense and what he could and couldn't do later in the match, it made all the sense in the world for me. And it really picked up down the second half where like Tsuji had so many opportunities to potentially win the match, but he was unable to because his neck had been so compromised that like his body was giving out from him. And he had never been in a singles match the length of this match, where like I had heard from a good friend of mine, they're like, the match went a little long, 35 minutes is probably too long for them. But they were telling a story where Tsuji had never really gone past like a 20-minute mark or something like that. And so the longer the match went, the stronger it was for Naito, because that's Naito's wheelhouse. And it got to a point where like Tsuji was trying his hardest to like, he would strike with him and there's nothing on the strikes, and he's doing his moves and like he's not getting as much on the moves as he normally would. And his flashy lucha libre, lucha rezu style is starting to give out on him. So he starts reverting to the fundamentals from the dojo system and working like a young lion again. And then that's playing into the match that they had when Naito sent Tsuji off onto his excursion all those years ago. And, you know, he's doing Boston crabs and, you know, basically relying on his fundamentals because that's all he has left for himself. And I kind of think Naito rope-a-doped Tsuji a little bit. Like he took Tsuji's best shots and Tsuji couldn't put Naito away. Like Tsuji has wrestled some great wrestlers in New Japan, but he's never fought an ace. He had a world title match with Sonata, but let's be clear, Sonata's never been like that. There, you know how they say there's levels to this. Like Naito is in kayfabe is a higher level than Sonata, and granted, we all recognize like Ospreay is one of the best there is, but at no point was Ospreay the ace of this company. Like Naito's an ace, and he didn't have the goods on this night to go 35 minutes on that level with a guy of this caliber, and he just got put away. And like down the stretch, Naito just started hitting him with the big offense on the neck. The match did kind of start. I did notice there were some botches down the stretch. Like they were supposed to do like a Spanish fly off the top, and like Naito couldn't do it, so they had to revert to superplex. And there were a couple other things where it started to feel a little Naito Sonata-ish, but I thought the story was compelling. I thought this was a really great chapter for the Tsuji story, and of course he didn't win. It might not have been the coming out party for Tsuji that some of us wanted it to be, where when you got done, you were like, God damn, he's the next ace. This is, you know, it wasn't like that, but it was a great match and it was a great story, and something that they could revisit down the line. And Naito was just better on this night.
Yeah, I mentioned last week, I thought it was very important for Tsuji to have a great match and to have a better match than Umino had with Naito, which I do think this match was better than the Umino Naito match. And, you know, I'm about 4.25 plus on this matchup. And yeah, I thought, Naito kind of drug Tsuji into the deep end here and really kind of tested Tsuji in a match that he's not used to going. You know, he's not used to being in these big main events and going this long. So it was a testing of Tsuji going against a guy who's used to doing that, you know, for several years now. And yeah, I really enjoyed the matchup. I thought there was a lot of cool spots and counters throughout the match. There was a great Gene Blast counter where Tsuji's going for the Gene Blast and Naito reverses it into a monkey flip into the corner. Naito busted out the top rope Frankensteiner. Tsuji did a cool curb stomp off the apron. He didn't hit it fully, but it still looked pretty cool. And I forget what he's calling that secondary finisher where he does the springboard and then the double stomp to the back of the head. So they were doing a lot of cool stuff. Also, there's another great Gene Blast counter where he's going for the Gene Blast and Naito does the running capo forward kick. That was another great counter. So yeah, there was just so many great back and forths. Naito hit the Gene Blast at one point and Tsuji kicked out at one. I really liked that. I thought that was cool.
That's that old, Puroresu trope where it's like, I'm defiantly kicking out right now, even though this is my last gasp of energy. I don't really have much more after this, but fuck you, I'm kicking out. You gave me your best shot and I'm showing that I'm resilient, but like the reality is it's all a facade. Like he was pretty much done after that.
Yeah, and then like you mentioned, he was going to the Boston Crab, and part of that might be going back to his Young Lion roots, but also I think he kind of wanted to embarrass Naito, because that's how Naito beat him in that send-off match with the that Lion Tamer version of the Boston Crab, and so he kept going for that, and he was hoping that he could tap out Naito the same way Naito submitted him all those years ago, but also that was not to be the case, and Naito was able to hit the Gloria, and then he hits the Destino. Tsuji tried to block it, but Naito was able to finally, he hit it partially, and then he picked him up and did the full Destino. 1, 2, 3, got the win and retains the championship.
Yeah, that Gloria was almost just basically a straight brainbuster. Like it was nasty. Yeah, great match. It was a great match. Where were you on it?
I said 4.25 plus.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I thought Chris Charlton was great on the call too, where he alluded to kind of what I was talking about, where he was like, this man is wrestling with talking of Tsuji, he's wrestling with his past and his Young Lion roots and the man that he wants to be versus who he was, as much as it is about him defeating Naito. Yeah. Which I think was definitely a narrative in the story there. I got to tell you, man, I love Jeff Cobb. I do. I'm a huge fan of Jeff Cobb. I don't know if I need to hear his commentary in a big show like this ever again.
Yeah, Jeff Cobb's a guy that you bring in for Road to commentary. Like, he had several lines that were funny, and he did it pop me a couple times. Yeah. But yeah, in a main event of this magnitude, I think I would have just rather Chris just be solo.
There was one point where I thought that they really snafu'd, where Tsuji hits the Gene Blast. And when he hits the Gene Blast out of nowhere, he's so injured that he cannot follow up on it. And it gets to a point where it's like a lot of time passes. And instead of going for the pinfall, he picks up Naito. And Jeff Cobb basically was like, is this not going for the pinfall? Is that a rookie error? And I understand why he said that. Like, that is a general approach, but you have to understand a lot of time passed.
Yeah,
like
it was like 30 seconds had passed, and
they were down for so long. Like, there's no way he was getting that pinfall. And it was pretty clear that he knew that what he did was not good enough to put away a champion of the caliber of Naito. And in that instance, you want the commentators to be like, this guy knows that what he gave isn't enough to put away a champion the caliber of Naito. And instead, like, Charlton played into it, and he's like, yeah, that might be a mistake. And I'm like, no, that wasn't a mistake. They should be talking about the ring IQ of Tsuji, knowing that he didn't do enough to put him away, and that he needs to do more. But this was the point where he starts throwing elbows and there's nothing on them. And it's like, he's giving his all, but he has nothing left. And they missed the moment. And it was a huge moment. I mean, this is incredible, like, storytelling. And I was like, fuck, they missed it. Like, I bet you Walker wouldn't have missed it.
But yeah, overall, really great match. Really enjoyed
strong
it.
Main event.
Yeah, strong main event. Good showing from Tsuji. Great defense by Naito. Then post match, we had Jon Moxley. Like we said last week, Jon Moxley comes out, and before he can say anything, Naito grabs the mic and says in English, do you want the IWGP World Championship? And he said it twice, and Moxley was like, yeah. And so they made it, he official for the world title for Windy City Riot. And then Moxley left, and Naito cut his closing promo, did the roll call, got the streamers, and then him and Tsuji did the LIJ fist bump to close the show.
Yeah, we got some questions here, and I know we're just a little over 2 hours, so let's we'll get to those so we can get the show.
Yeah, Discord Daddy says, are you more or less convinced Naito is losing to Mox after Sakura Genesis? Naito mentioned Mox had beat him in the 2019 G1, and I can be sold on the idea of a trilogy.
I could too. but I'm not right now. I think he's losing.
Same. Dragon Master Adam says, with Finley going after Tsuji, now who do you think benefits more from a win there? Tsuji losing to Naito and Finley in a row kind of kills any momentum he had left after Sakura Genesis. Finley was probably going to beat Tsuji in the finals of New Japan Cup, but does a win really mean anything now?
I'm not convinced personally that Finley was ever winning that tournament, although we'll never know. And there's plenty of people that agree with you, Adam. So we'll see. But we didn't touch base on it, but Finley is targeting he's targeting Tsuji. And we even saw in the fallout of the post match that it's going to be like a War Dogs versus LIJ thing. We're also getting the junior team from LIJ going after the tag title. So it's kind of a full faction warfare sort of situation. But that is kind of like a no lose, a can't lose situation for both Finley and Tsuji. And so I'll be pulling for Tsuji because I feel like he really can't handle the loss, but Finley also kind of needs the win too.
Yeah, I would go with Tsuji, but I could see them, Dontaku is Bull Club month, and I could see them doing the story of tragedy for Tsuji and having him have to come from behind and fight back and get his win back in the G1 or something like that.
Well, now that you say that, that does make sense because it's like if you needed to build up a challenger in May, provided we're still doing title shots in May at Dontaku, provided Jon Moxley's a champion, he's going to come over and actually do a defense. If that or Naito's still champion or whatever, you might need to have Finley pick up a pinfall victory there so that he can establish himself as the next challenger.
Yeah.
Also, I want to say this. Cobb, I don't remember what line he said, but he kind of like gave away the dirt that he's challenging for the IWGP heavyweight title. And I don't know if you've noticed, but like in the post match all month, he's been saying like, I'm putting all the champions on notice.
Yeah.
I'm coming after your titles, but he's made no actual declaration for what title he's going after. He kind of alluded, I don't remember the specific line, but he made it, he spoiled himself and kind of made it clear that like in California, it's Jeff Cobb, California, he's probably challenging for the IWGP title in California.
What line did he say? I didn't catch that.
Well, as I said, I don't recall what the line was, but he said something where I was like, oh, he's challenging in at Resurgence. Like whatever it was he said made me be like, okay, he just basically blew it. I don't know if anyone else picked up on it. I'd have to go back and listen, but I don't recall exactly. And that was another thing where I was like, he shouldn't be on commentary if he's giving away the fucking creative.
Yeah, I missed that line, but it makes a ton of sense. Yeah, for California to do Moxley versus Cobb.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I think they might be doing that.
Yeah. At In-Ring Art says, who do you think gets a shot at Resurgence? ZSJ, Naito rematch if Mox wins. Well, you said
I think it's
Cobb. Rainbow Slam Pig says, what performer came out of Sakura Genesis with the most exciting direction and momentum? I am buzzing about Shingo, Gabe, the War Dogs, Junior Tag Team, Doki, Naito, and Tsuji. To me, it seems like there's a lot of good stuff moving forward.
I agree. I think that they did a lot of really good creative things here, just generally. I know that there's still some issues in the company creatively and as a fan, but it does seem we've moved a little bit past the ward or the House of Torture thing being so in the forefront and the limelight and kind of moved on to other narratives. So yeah, I'm excited for all of these things actually.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good directions moving forward. I think Tsuji elevated his stock coming out of that match. And I think LIJ versus War Dogs will be an interesting feud going forward. And it seems like we're getting some new faces in the junior title division. So yeah, there's some good stuff coming forward.
Well, that is going to do it for our review of Sakura Genesis. So this coming up week, we've got two major shows on different continents. We've got Windy City Riot on Friday, April the 12th. And then just 2 days later on Sunday, there's Wrestling World in Taiwan. Jeremy, I think I'll just kind of go over the cards and we can give our general thoughts since we're a little pressed on time here, and we got 2 whole cards to go over. But for Windy City Riot, which we will be in town, so if you're listening, hit us up. DMs are open. We'd love to meet with you guys. We're going to be doing the presser event the Thursday evening. We'll be there. We're press credentialed, and then we're also going to be at the show on Friday as well. So to open up the show, we have the Strong Survivor match. Matt Vandegrift, who has thus far defended his Strong Survivor spot time and time again, takes on Zane J. Zane J was recently coming up on the losing end in a main event effort against Bad Dude Tito on the 3rd Academy Showcase. And so this will be the first time that we've seen Zane J work on a major show. I don't know too much here, but that's the match that we got there. Following that, we have Alex Windsor and Trisha Dora taking on Mina Shirakawa and Viva Van. So we got some Joshi action. Minoru Suzuki versus Ren Narita. So the first major follow-up in the betrayal of Strong Style as Minoru Suzuki takes on his former protege. 4th match of the night, the Strong Women's title is on the line as Stephanie Viquer defends the title against Azumi. 5th match of the night, the Strong Openweight Tag Team title 4-corner match, GOD versus Rosser and Lawler versus TMDK versus the West Coast Wrecking Crew. 6th match of the night, we got Jack Perry versus Shota Umino. We do have a question there. We'll get to it.
Oh, I think we answered that already. I thought I put it up higher, but yeah, it was here. But we answered that already.
Gotcha. 7th match of the night, Mustafa Ali, the reigning X Division champion, takes on Hiromu in thus far announced non-title match. 8th match of the night, Riot Rules match as Team Eddie Kingston versus Team Gabe Kidd, with each man having 3 surprise teammates that will be revealed at the event. 9th match of the night, the NJPW World Television title is on the line as Matt Riddle defends against Zack Sabre Jr. Semi-main event, Tomohiro Ishii versus the current global champion Nick Nemeth in a non-title match. And then your final match of the evening for the World Heavyweight title, Tetsuya Naito defends against Jon Moxley. We do have some questions there, but before we get to those, Jeremy, what are your thoughts on the full card now that we have it finally announced?
Yeah, overall, I think it's a really solid card. I really like a lot of stuff they have on here. I'm glad we're getting Narita and Suzuki, kind of a follow-up, like you mentioned, for the Strong Style breakup there. Stephanie Viquer versus Zumi should be a lot of fun. We talked about Jack Perry and Shota Umino. I think that's going to have a lot of heat there. Same thing with Ali, being a Chicago native. I think him and Hiromu will be a lot of fun. The Riot Rules match, I'm sure that's going to be your typical, we're in America, so we need a plunder match.
Yep.
But that should be fun as well with the guys involved there. Riddle and Sabre, they always have great matches together. It's going to be interesting to see, Nick Nemeth facing Ishii. And then, the main event, Naito and Moxley. I think this is for a show at, over 6,000 people, I think it's going to be a pretty solid show.
I think it's a great lineup for, a strong show. They're saying this is the largest NJPW strong event of all time. And I think the card kind of reflects that. We've got a world title match on top, which is pretty rare in the States. And then quite a few big names, big stars in high stakes matches. One thing I do want to point out, I have not been a fan of the Ali Hiromu feud, just because with Ali, all we got was the one video package and literally no follow-up. And Hiromu's been having to carry the feud basically on his own in backstage segments. He's basically doing a Bray Wyatt versus Undertaker, just carrying the entire feud on his own as the other guy just stays home. But I think that match is going to be great. Still questionable on the slotting of ZSJ versus Matt. Did you see what Zach had to say about Matt Riddle?
I saw something, but I forgot now what he said.
Basically said, that this guy's like a stoner bro, the kind of like hippie dippy surfer.
Oh, he's like, I hate hippies. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, you think I'd like them because I'm a vegetarian and all that. He's like, but I fucking hate hippies. It's like, they're my worst enemies. He's like, they think they're so spiritual. I'm not a spiritual person at all. He's like, I don't eat, he said, I don't not eat animals because I'm spiritual. I don't eat animals because humans are cunts and nobody's worse than the hippies. So that's going to be interesting. We've always said with the Nick Nemeth thing, You want to see how good somebody is, put them in there with Tomohiro Ishii. So that's exactly what we're getting here. I don't know why it's not a title match, but I guess only Tanahashi can get a title shot, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't get why he's so obsessed with Tanahashi being the first challenger, and I don't. Yeah, this could have easily been a title match, especially if he's going to win. Unless I guess maybe Ishii's going to get a surprise upset win, and then
Ishii's not winning.
Well, then why not do a title match? If Nev was going to win, this should have just been a title match, and then Tanahashi could have been the second challenger.
Yeah, the Gabe Kingston match, I'm surprised it's not for the strong openweight title, but very interested to see who else they have coming out with them.
Here's my thought. I feel like when they booked this match, they had no idea what the War Dogs were going to do because they just re-signed all those dudes except Coughlin.
Makes sense.
So they're probably like, well, we have Gabe for this date, but we don't know what we have next, so we'll just put him in this 8-man to continue the feud, and then we'll do mystery partners because we have no idea if any of these other War Dogs are going to be available. But now it seems pretty clear, like, because they mentioned that Finlay is scheduled for the show, and he's not on this card yet, so I'm assuming at least Finlay will be one of his partners. I don't know who else will be, if they're just going to use, Connors and Drilla, but I mean, I think that would kind of be lame with these mystery entrants.
Naito did a press conference yesterday or today. I think it was yesterday, discussing Jon Moxley, kind of answering questions. And one thing that was brought up was the idea that if Jon Moxley wins here, he's going to fulfill the global or like international Grand Slam, being the first man to hold the AEW, WWE, and IWGP heavyweight titles. And Naito's like, the fuck do I care about that? He's like, it sounds very impressive, but like, why the fuck would I care about that?
Yeah.
And like, he was like, does he want to be a global Grand Slam champion? Does he want to be the IWGP champion, or is he trying to beat me? Like, what is his motivation? Like, that's really what it comes down to. He's like, I'm hoping that it's not that he just wants to win the title so he can say he's champion, but I want him to want to beat me because I'm the one that holds the title. Basically saying like, I'm the fucking shit, I'm the best, and you got to beat me to say that you're the best, essentially. So I kind of like that tact, basically, without saying like, those titles don't matter. The IWGP title is the one that matters.
Right.
And that's kind of, that's kind of the tact he took there. But guys, we're here. It's a week away. By the time we record a week from now, we'll know what the truth is. But there's a narrative here where Naito in kayfabe, he just one very interesting thing. He's never held a top title and defended it more than once before. This is the first title reign he's ever had where he's had 2 successful title defenses, and now on a 6-day notice, he's going to defend it again. And then like, there's another resurgence the next month. Plus Dontaku's in May. This is a lot of back-to-back-to-back title defenses. Jon Moxley's winning this belt. I don't know how long he's going to hold it, or anything like that, but I think he's winning the title next week.
Yeah, I agree. And we've been talking about it for weeks now, and all we said, the tea leaves are there, like always on Sakura Genesis. Like, what do you think is going to happen? And yeah, I think it's very clear that he's winning this title and winning this main event. And you look at the schedule and the next show, like Resurgence being in California, and them already saying, hey, the IWGP World title is going to be defended here. Like, I think you have a better chance of getting Moxley to show up on that show than making Naito continue to travel to America, which he already doesn't like traveling to America. So I think you could easily have Mox defend the title on that show. And then, again, Mox is a guy that loves New Japan. He loves traveling to Japan, and he hasn't really been doing much in AEW. They beat FTR, and then they've pretty much been off TV. Blackpool Combat Club, that is. Bryan Danielson's also in the feud with Ospreay, but Claudio hasn't really done much, and Moxley hasn't done much since they beat FTR. So I think all the signs are there. They've done the stuff in Mexico, so he's kind of been doing this kind of international thing right now, and so I think it makes all sense for Moxley to get the big win here and then move forward.
Yeah, and great summation of the reasons. I mean, we've been talking about it on the show for quite a few weeks now, and I was like, what were the reasons again? I know we've said them many times, and that's pretty much it. Mox Crew 2021 says, how long do you think Mox could hold the title if he wins, especially if AEW really has no plans for him? Short term, like Forbidden Door or Dominion. Longer term, like Wrestle Kingdom next year.
Yeah, something else we've kind of talked about. I think a cool story. I think he could go all the way Wrestle Kingdom. Like you've mentioned, they could do this whole thing of Umino winning the G1, and then his big moment is beating his mentor, Jon Moxley, in the Tokyo Dome for the title in the main event. So I think that is very plausible because, like we said, you have Resurgence. You know, Mox can defend there. He can defend. He doesn't have to, but he could defend the Taku. You could do Mox versus David Finlay, Bullet Club month. Then he can go into Dominion, Forbidden Door, and then G1. Hopefully, if he is a champion, he will be in G1. And then in the fall, he doesn't really have to do many defenses in the fall. He could do one, if at any at all. And then they can just build all the fall up to Moxley Umino come Wrestle Kingdom. So I think there's a very strong chance that he could hold the belt until January 4th.
Well, the two things that make me nervous about that, and I know I'm the one who's like, I think it's going to be him and Umino at the Tokyo Dome, and maybe we'll get there. We'll see. But G1, the champion always works G1. So one of two things would happen. They would set a precedent where he holds the title and he just doesn't work the G1, which would be new territory, or he works it, and we're kind of wondering, like, can his body fucking hold up? Because he was in great shape last time, and he got hurt, and like it was very strenuous on him, you know. The other thing, I worry about the TV rights deal and negotiation season with AEW, and I know that they do have a lot of perceived quote unquote stars right now, but there's been the criticism that, like, they brought in Okada, they brought in Will Ospreay, they brought in Sasha or Mercedes, and it hasn't moved the needle. And granted, anyone with a modicum of sense would understand, like, it takes time to build stars. It takes time for them to build momentum. This is a long, to steal it's not a sprint.
It's a marathon.
It's a marathon. Obviously, it's going to take time for that to build up. And I think that we've seen positive growth and positive signs in recent times when it comes to AEW's business. That being said, there are the bad faith grifters who are like, their business isn't moving. They have no stars. All the stars are gone. Kenny Omega's gone. MJF is gone. Adam Cole is gone, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what's to stop TK from just being like, all right, Mox, you've been playing in Mexico and Japan long enough. It's time for you to come home. Like, we need some ratings. Come on. And that's always possible. And that makes me nervous. So I do wonder if a long-term title reign is even plausible.
Yeah, I think there's a chance. But, I mean, yeah, he could drop it at any one of these shows. And, again, it doesn't have to be a super long run. I mean, they could have him drop it at any point pre-G1 if he's not going to be in it. I do think a cool Forbidden Door main event would be him defending against Zack Sabre Jr. The whole kind of Blackpool Combat Club story there. And, Sabre lost to Claudio at Forbidden Door before. He had the rivalry with Danielson. He beat Danielson, so you could have Sabre beat all BCC. He could beat Claudio in the build to this match, and then you could do the big main event and have Zack be the one to beat Moxley and bring the title back and go into G1 as champion. So I think there's a lot of cool things you could do with Mox as champ.
I would love that. We'll see. Next question. Diego Stinger Garcia says, Mox will be the first bald IWGP champion since who? Which that's an easy question. Keiji Muto. Keiji Muto was the last bald champion. Actually, I answered this in the Discord, but I don't have the exact specific order, but there have been quite a few bald champions. Yasuda, Bob Sapp. Bob Sapp was the last foreigner that was bald, that was champion, but Ken Norton at one point was bald and he was champion. I don't know if you count Vader, because like Vader always had like short hair, but it was like
he had like the little like mohawk kind of line gimmick,
but
thing.
He's mostly bald, so it's a tough call. Fujita always had like a blonde bleach blonde buzz cut, but there were a few times where he's bald now, but there was a couple times where he would shave his head and then grow out the stubble. So like that's also iffy, but there probably been like 5 or 6 bald IWGP champions before. But Hogan, yeah.
I don't know if you count the little like hair gimmick.
83. I think he still had hair in 83 mostly. But he was balding for sure. But yeah, Muto was the last one. And I think that was he dropped that title to Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom 3. So that was like 08, 09, something like that.
Yeah.
Trish from the Trish and Sarah show says, how do you think that Nemeth and Ali will do, being that they can't follow a WWE match layout for their given matches?
Yeah, I think it's going to be kind of, sink or swim for both of these guys. Also, Nick Nemeth, I think he has it a little bit easier because he's in there with Ishii. And Ishii kind of has his formula and layout and knows how to peak matches. And if Ziggler kind of follows the Ishii game plan, like I think that's an easy 4-star match there. Now, Ali and Hiromu, I mean, I think that would be great, but I don't know how much WWE has reset Ali. I haven't watched any of his Impact stuff or any of his indie stuff, so I don't know. I know he's doing the whole politician character thing, so I don't know if he's... I know, last time I saw him in 205 Live in WWE, he was doing great stuff and having great matches and was, going out there and killing himself, so I don't know if he's... Since he's, a little bit older, I don't know if that's what he's going to do, and Hiromu also hasn't been taking as many risks with coming back from his neck injuries and the pec and all that stuff. So I kind of feel like Nick Nemeth has a better shot of having a better match. But if Ali is willing to go out there and, do what he normally does, and same with Hiromu, I think that could be a great match as well.
I sort of agree in the one sense where it's like Ishii has the plug and play formula. You can put anybody in there and basically it's an easy 4-star match. But I disagree in a certain sense. Ali has been born and bred on the indies where Nick Nemeth wasn't, and he has had some time on the indies between this match and his time in WWE. So he's had acclimation time. I've always felt like there's a ceiling with how good Ali matches have been even before he was in WWE. But I think that he's going to be much more comfortable in the environment than Nick Nemeth is. Last question on this subject. Less Commission 7252 says, why does the Windy City Riot card make Sakura Genesis card look like a geek compared to how Roman made Seth look like a geek at WrestleMania last Sunday night?
Well,
I don't know that it does, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but I kind of see where it's coming from. But the thing is with these US shows, like, you gotta sell tickets, and New Japan is not super hot in the US right now, and so they want to kind of put their best foot forward and do the things that we've been saying for years now, like announce matches ahead of time, have big stars, do title matches, and they did that, and now that they're having over 6,000 people in the building, and the California show already has a ton of tickets sold, so they're announcing stuff ahead of time, they're making big cards for the US, and so that's what's going to bring people to the US shows.
Well, one thing, I don't know if you thought about this, Jeremy, they outdrew Sakura Genesis already.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe he has a point. Following up with that, New Japan Wrestling World in Taiwan is on Sunday. So a couple announced matches here for the card. The kickoff match presented by their partner in Taiwan, which is Puzzle Wrestling. They present a match between Axe Wang versus Toyu. We know nothing about these guys, so that'll be our first introduction to them. After that, the first match of the Never Openweight 6-man tag team title tournament, we have Tanahashi, Yano, and Bolton teaming up to take on the United Empire's Okan, Francesco Akira, and Callum Newman. Following that, there will be another first-round match as the LIJ team of Bushi, Tsuji, and Shingo take on the House of Torture's Evil, Kanemaru, and Sho. Fourth match of the night, Kojima and Tiger Mask team up to take on Desperado and Shoma Kato. Fifth match of the night, Starlight Kid takes on Hanako. And then in the sixth match of the night, Doki will take on Kosei Fujina in a number one contenders match for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. The semi-main event is a IWGP Tag Team title match as Bishamon defend their titles against the Just Five Guys team of Yuya, Uemura, and Sonata. We have some questions there. And then your main event will be the finals of the 6-man tag team championship tournament as the winners from the second and third match of the night face off.
Yeah, overall, this is a fine card here. We finally got the never 6-man tournament there. I feel like if we're going to continue this whole UE's, crumbling story, I could see, Team Tanahashi winning there. And then maybe you have House of Torture get their heat back and beat LIJ. And in the finals, you do Hantai versus House of Torture. I would have Hantai win, and that'd be interesting having Bolton Oleg as a young lion with a championship. But they could easily have House of Torture win as well.
I was a little surprised that we didn't get Chase Owens, Kenta, and Ishimori in the tournament because they had really played up that would be one of the declared teams for the tournament, and they didn't even get in. They're not even booked, so kind of interesting there. But I agree with you. I think that's a possibility. At the same time, because it's the never 6-man openweight tag team title, anything is possible. All of these teams are viable. Any combination is realistic. If we were just going like the fan servicey route, what do people want to see from a work rate perspective? What's going to be the best match? That would probably be the United Empire team versus LIJ.
Yeah.
But I'm not confident we're getting that. Like, that would be like the mark in me being like, give me what I want. And I feel like House of Torture and Hantai probably is the match.
Yeah. You could do House of Torture LIJ. It's because, Bushi's and getting all these wins. So they're going to continue that story. Bushi could pin Kanemaru or even Sho to get momentum there.
You can't do House of Torture versus LIJ. They're facing off.
No, Hantai against LIJ.
Oh, Hantai versus LIJ.
Yeah.
So like an all quasi babyface of affair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's possible. And again, it's the never 6-man, so anything is possible.
Literally, all four of these teams have the equal chance of winning.
Right. I'm holding out hope that it's United Empire versus LIJ and maybe the United Empire wins, because then you can turn around and be like, we all got titles, TJP. What the fuck do you got, Capitan?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the rest of the card, more Stardom action, which is good. We got their partner in Puzzle giving us an offer match, which is cool. One thing we didn't talk about, so Yuya Uemura did come and confront Goto and Yoshihashi post-match at the show and basically said that he held a victory over Yoshihashi from an earlier tour match. I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, it was an undercard tag match that he pinned Yoshihashi.
Gotcha. So he was like, I beat you in a tag match, so will you give me a shot? And so they said, yeah, so we're getting Uemura and his clone Sonata, so two guys that look like each other. And we do have some questions here. Less Commission 7252 says, not to bring any Sonata hate, but I preferred seeing Uemura tag with Taichi when the belts from Bishamon. It's time to pick up on the Goto story and have him chase for the global championship and let Yoshihashi finally chase a singles championship, probably the never openweight championship. So I guess he's asking our thoughts, and I don't see why they have to drop their tag titles to chase singles titles, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you could do that, but I think he's more focusing in on like Sonata in there instead of Taichi. And we've been saying this for a long time on the show. Sonata is a better tag team wrestler, end of the day. And so I actually would prefer him be the one in there with Uemura and let Taichi do single stuff. But I think Uemura and Sonata could be a good team.
I'm not opposed to the idea of Taichi being the guy. Taichi he's probably on some sort of like break or hiatus because he wasn't booked for the Sakura Genesis. He's not booked for this show, for either of these two shows. So he's probably taking some well-deserved time off. But yeah, we'll see. I'm not convinced that just 5 guys are winning the belts here. I don't see them as a strong tag team champion contender or anything like that. But especially with the idea that Uemura is about to challenge for KOPW,
Yeah.
So we'll see. And then, yeah, I guess final thoughts on the Never one thing we should touch base on. This is not a strong field for the Never title tournament. They've done a lot of revitalization of this division last couple of years. And the team that we just had was like a mega all-star team in Tanahashi, Okada, and Ishii. And now we're turning around and it's like we're back to the open weight, pretty much, cannon fodder sort of mishmash, sloshed up teams that could be champions again. And I think that a lot of fans, when they heard the idea of this tournament, were expecting some stronger caliber teams. And instead we've got a lot of like juniors teaming up with heavyweights, and it's sort of back to its roots.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is because of the schedule, and obviously in the same weekends when you see Riot, they split the crews. Had this been a tournament in Japan, you could have done a little bit of a bigger bracket. You could have done a TMDK trio team. You could have done a Chaos trio team. You could have done a Bullet Club War Dogs trios team. So there's a lot of factions that are not involved in other teams that they could have done in this tournament. But yeah, with them having the split schedule and half the crew being in Chicago, half the crew being here in Taiwan, this is what they had to do.
Yep. That who is your final prediction to win that tournament, by the way?
I'm gonna go with Hontai. I'm gonna go with the Ace, Yano.
I think they're putting the title on Oleg Bolton as a young lion.
Big Bolton. Let's go.
I hate to say it, but I think I'm going House of Torture. Fuck it. Nah, I'm going United Empire.
But yeah, you made a good point. That could really play into that whole TJP story of like, hey, we went, we picked up the win, we got the belts, we did what you couldn't do. And that could really be the next step in that story there.
I would love that. So we'll see. Let's jump into the news. So the G1 schedule was announced. There are 19 events in total. I'm not going to go over every single date, but we've got dates ranging from July 20th all the way down to August 18th. And one thing that's notable is July 20th and 21st. They're in Osaka Edion Arena in Osaka. I don't think that's typically where I've said this on the show before. I'm the worst when it comes to the prefectures and the arena names and everything like that. But I don't think that this is where the tournament usually starts. So that's a bit of a change. And if you do your due diligence and read over, there's a lot of more smaller rural towns and arenas than are typical of the G1. But one of the biggest things is Saturday, August 17th and August 18th are at Sumo Hall. And normally when you have a 2-block tournament, you have the last 3 nights in the big arena, and they only have the last 2 nights, which probably means it's probably going to be another 4-block tournament format this year.
Yeah, because this is the same exact dates and layout as last year. We had 19 nights with the last 2 nights in Sumo Hall. So yeah, I think that, and a lot of people were hoping that this was going to be 2-block again, but it seems like it could be 4 blocks again.
Yeah, I don't know if people appreciated my joke about calling this tournament the
Rural revitalization
tournament.
Yeah.
Last bit of news here very quickly. So the OPW Australian Stampede event is taking place April 13th. First time ever, Kushida versus Robbie Eagles. So we'll be on the lookout for that. And then DDT April Fools 2024 that took place on April 7th. We had Chris Brooks and Zack Sabre Jr. as they took on Mao and Yuki Ueno, and that match went to a time limit draw, 30 minutes. And I think the big news, like I didn't know until this moment that was a draw. The only thing I knew about the match was that Chris Brooks and Zack Sabre Jr. made out. That's pretty much the big news that everyone's been talking about. So
yeah, it's been all over the place.
So I guess we'll have to review that match I heard the match was good. It's got a great review rating, so we'll see. But that's going to do it for the news. in the midst of a WrestleMania weekend post-show, light news.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the big news was everything from Sakura Genesis and obviously Windy City Riot. So,
and as I mentioned earlier, Kenta did defend successfully the Defy title, which he had to jump on a plane, and he blamed the loss of the IWGP heavyweight titles on his jet lag. So,
all right, you want to push these few questions to next week and let's close up with a recommended match, or you want to run through them real quick?
We only got 4 questions. We can run through these quick.
All right, Les Commission 7252 says, I listened to the Jim Cornette Experience and drive through.
Oh, why? What are you my guy, what are you doing?
And drive through every week. And one thing he and his co-hosts are deeply unimpressive with is when a AEW or New Japan wrestler strike elbows on one another in a striking standoff, purposely letting the other guy get a shot on his opponent. I have no issue with the striking standoff because it gets the crowd involved, and it's usually at the last few minutes of the match. If you have guys like Austin and Rock or Triple H and Undertaker having a striking standoff, it's okay. What do you guys think about these striking standoffs? When is it allowed, and does it determine a wrestler's work style?
Yeah, it's very simple. Let me break this down for you guys. And this is a dirty little secret. And the guys at the Jim Cornette and the drive, what do they call it? The Experience and the drive-through. They're not going to tell you this shit, but it's true. In Japan, they throw forearms. In Mexico, they throw overhand chops. In America, they throw punches. And in Europe, they throw European uppercuts. And it's the same spot. And that's it. They do the same shit. In America, we call it the boo yay spot. Boo, yay, boo. That's the same shit they do in Japan. They just don't boo and yay it. And
we do yeet or no yeet.
Yeah, it's the yeet versus no yeet. Anybody, listen, the only way that you can complain about Japanese wrestlers throwing the forearm strikes into each other and standing there and taking it. Granted, I'll tell you what, like, there was a time where I took a break from watching wrestling as predominantly as I do now. And where when I got back into pro, I was like, it is stupid. If you think about it, it is stupid. They're just standing there letting them hit each other. But in American wrestling, they're not working like, if they were working like the UFC, where they got their hands up and they're circling one another and they're throwing kicks and strikes and they're trying to evade the shots and they're blocking and they're putting their hands up and they're doing head movement, then yeah, I would be like, yeah, Jim Cornette's got a great point there. But you ever watch some Memphis punches? Like, they just fucking take them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
If you watch CWA from the 1980s, it's just Jerry Lawler and Superstar Bill Dundee and Jeff Jarrett and people like that just fucking punching
bow and arrow punches.
Yeah, they're just throwing bow and arrow punches. Like, it's the same shit. It's just a different style. In Mexico, it's the overhand chop. You know, in the NWA, it was the regular chop, like, you know, the way that Flair does it. In Europe, they throw uppercuts with their forearm, but it's all the same shit. Don't listen to Jim Cornette. He's a fucking grifter. I do respect him as a historian, but fuck, is he a terrible person?
Yeah, I stopped listening to his podcast a long time ago, and yeah, it's straight up grifter. And yeah, I mean, you kind of nailed it on the head there with the striking exchange. And I think in New Japan too, is the whole, you know, fighting spirit. You're trying to prove who's tougher, and
that is the whole thing. Like, the reason they take the strikes is to prove their toughness, that they can withstand the damage. So there is a psychology to it. And I mean, I remember one time I was watching, this is off topic, but I was watching this, like, in the mid 2010 ish, Kurt Angle was fighting, Abyss. And I had stopped watching wrestling for a bit, and Abyss is just overhand punching this dude. And he's just like, And I was like training MMA at the time. And I'm like, why the fuck doesn't he just put his hands up? Like, just block the punches. Like, at the very, like, take the punches, sell the damage, but at least just put your hands up and block something, you know? But wrestlers don't do that. They got to show the facials. They got to take the pain, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
But to act like this isn't a major part of Western professional wrestling.
Pretty much every genre of wrestling.
Did you watch WrestleMania this week? I watched it. It's just a bunch of people punching each other.
Mm-hmm. Next question from Diego Stinger Garcia. Thoughts on the new strategy of 4 big shows a year in the States?
We don't know that that's the strategy, so I can't speak on that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we'll have to revisit come the end of the year. Cody Dr. Lariat says, worst haircut, Dutch Boy Naito or Kushida's forgot to taper fade?
That's a funny question. I didn't notice anything about Kushida's fade, but I always think Naito has the fucking worst hair. So
yeah, I'm going Naito. Then Barry Wall says, after hearing you mention him on the past week's show, I have to ask, would you take him back? Talking about Harold May. Was he hard done by with COVID, a victim or circumstance with AEW forming? From as neutral as a stance as you can be, how hopeful are you that things will get better soon?
I made a joke about Harold May, but far be it from, I know that we are an authoritative voice in the space, but far be it for me to say what's gone on behind closed doors. I'm not privy to the behind the scenes dealings of business when it comes to Harold May and, you know, all that stuff. I know that Dave Meltzer had a lot of, you know, insights at the time that seemed to come from probably the elite camp as it pertained to Harold May. And I don't know. I'm not that in depth in the inside scoops. I don't know that Jeremy's withholding information from me that maybe he is.
No, I've heard nothing about Harold May since he's left. You know, he's out the territory, he's out the business. But yeah, I mean, as far as things getting better, I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic. I mean, again, we've said over and over, New Japan has access to so many great talents within their roster, in their dojo, and their partner promotions. And I think they have a talent to turn things around, and it's all in the booking. And I think things could get positive. And I know for some fans, like Moxley being the champ, they might not see it as a positive thing, but I don't know. I think Moxley's a top credible star in all of wrestling, and I think it's going to help bring eyeballs to New Japan. It's going to help the Resurgence show. It's going to, they loved him in Japan. He was super over in that tag match. So you put him in Japan, I think that's going to be a great thing there. And having somebody beat him, it's going to get whoever it is over. So yeah, I think there's a lot of cool things, and even like the whole LIJ versus United Empire and Bullet Club War Dogs. I think there's a lot of stuff that they can do to continue to make this year better. Any thoughts on that?
Nope.
All right. Well,
I already gave my thoughts. I mean, I agree with you. So,
all right. Recommended match of the week. Last week, I recommended Speedball versus Nick Nemeth from Bloodsport.
Yeah. So I watched the full Bloodsport event. I thought that the show was really great. I thought that this matchup was very interesting because it was clearly a amateur style wrestler versus your classic karate striker match. And they really played into those two tropes where, Nick Nemeth was a little bit out of his element in the Bloodsport arena, but he had to rely on his folk style wrestling skills to kind of carry him through. And, speedball. So he's really good at mixing in the pro wrestling with his karate stylings. And he's very much at home in the Bloodsport arena. Short match. They only went 5 minutes, but a lot of it was Nick Nemeth using his double legs to not only take down Speedball, but to place him on the canvas, but like at the edge of the canvas where they, there was like the hardest part of the ring is the apron.
Mm-hmm.
He was taking him down on the apron so that he'd roll out of the ring, and that kind of gave like Nick Nemeth a time to like formulate the game plan and kind of reacclimate himself, while at the same time like spending energy from Speedball having to like get back in the ring. Speedball definitely had his moments with strikes and mixing in the offense and everything like that, but a lot of the control segments were the wrestling skills from Nick Nemeth. The finish came where Nick had he was working a rear naked choke. Actually, there was a really good armbar sequence where Speedball got an armbar on Nick Nemeth, and seemed like he was maybe going to finish him, but Nick Nemeth got out of that. But Nick was able to get a rear naked choke on Speedball. Speedball was able to get to a standing position with Nick Nemeth on his back and got to the corner. And it was sort of a situation where if you grabbed the corner post, that was sort of an out of bounds situation. You had to relinquish your hold. And so Nick Nemeth used that opportunity to relinquish the hold, but then immediately go into the zigzag and get the knockout victory. So I thought it was a good match. It's hard to give a high rating to a shoot style match that's 5 minutes. It wasn't exactly Volkan and Kiyoshi Tamura out there, but it was good for what it was. I was highly entertained. I would probably go like 3.5, 3.25, 3.5, something like that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the match as well. It's the only match I watched from the show. I'll go back and watch the full show at some point, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I love the clash of styles, and the commentary is pretty good, talking about, Ziggler being a wrestler, but like getting him down, like, can he finish him? Because, wrestlers are just using the pinning people from that with that amateur style, and so that was cool. And I love like the almost knockout shot that Speedball got when Nemeth like shot in and he hit that kind of flat.
That was
knee.
An awesome sell.
Yeah, I was like, he's gonna beat him, and then he was like trying to like knock him out, but then he was able to recover, and then he kind of used a tactic of, in amateur wrestling there is like a outer bounds kind of boundary, and so kind of a similar tactic of like forcing your opponent kind of to the outside and then forcing them back in. So kind of using that, like you mentioned, to hit the zigzag, whatever he calls it, and the zigzag now, and getting the choke win there. So yeah, fun match.
Yeah, very interesting. Last week I had recommended from Summer Struggle 2021 the graduation match between Tsuji when he was sent off to excursion when he faced off against Tetsuya Naito. And Jeremy, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, it was an interesting match to watch back. Obviously, going into the Sakura Genesis title match and kind of getting more of that backstory, and just remembering Tsuji was he wanted Naito's attention so bad, even as a young lion. And I remember he did that whole tweet thing of like, retweet this and I'll face Naito or whatever. And so yeah, it was kind of like culmination of all of that, and they kind of showed some of this in the VTR, and just, again, a lot of the key to the match was Naito just continuing to put him in the Boston Crab. And, at the time, Tsuji still with the limited moveset was, it was almost kind of the end of the title match where he's doing all the young lion stuff. He's doing, the body slams and the chops, and he's trying to get Naito in the Boston Crab. He's trying to submit him. I think at the time he was still doing the Mount Tsuji splash, and
he did do that.
Yeah, and so he's doing all the young lion stuff, and he's throwing the splash, and he's trying to beat Naito and earn a spot in LIJ, but in the end, Naito again just got him in that lion tamer Boston Crab and submitted him, and it was kind of this whole kind of bridge of the gap to lead to his excursion. Also, he went to Rev Pro first, but then going to CMLL and coming back and being a part of LIJ. It was very clear like Naito kind of saw something in him at that point, and it was kind of destino for him to come back and join LIJ and face Naito again.
Yeah, I loved there was a sign at the beginning of the match, and it said, "Your dreams are all of our dreams." And I was like, damn, like that's really poetic. Like, I hope that that's the case. I hope that because anytime you hear or see Tsuji doing, media and stuff like that, like he's a guy that gets it. He understands his character. He understands elevating things. And like, if his vision and his dream for New Japan and for being the guy comes to fruition, I hope he does carry out that wish for all of us so that we can see another boom and renaissance period for New Japan as a whole. But, one of the things that they kept talking about on the commentary for this match, and again, the match is interesting. I recommend you watch it because it's really good, but it's also during the pandemic era, which I forgot about pandemic era wrestling. Kevin Kelly mentioned how all throughout the match, Naito is working his way up to the Destino. He's doing his regular stuff that he does that leads to a Destino, and then ultimately he just opts not to do it. He doesn't need a Destino to put this guy away. He puts him in the lion tamer, taps him out when he pretty much has nothing left to give. and sends him away as a young lion. And basically the message is, you're still just a young boy. And I don't even need my finisher to beat you. And clearly needed his finisher this past weekend. So
right. That was
good story.
Yeah, great kind of gap there. It's like, young lion, he just needs the Boston Crab, but he has advanced. Like he did need several Destinos. He needed the running Destino. He got like another short Destino, and then finally the full one. So it took 3 versions of Destino to beat Tsuji. So definitely a juxtaposition there between the title match and this young lion match.
Well, I've heard really good things about this match, so I'm giving it the recommendation for this week from the Michinoku Pro 31st anniversary show, Doki versus Musashi.
All right, let's do that. I don't have one. I mean, we're traveling this week, so I think one's good enough. We've got to watch When You See Riot. We've got a lot of festivities and Wrestling World in Taiwan. So,
well, Jeremy, if you want to clip up anything this week, we got the lights going. We got the backdrops going. I cleaned up my facial hair. I think we're looking good. So, maybe hypothetically, you don't have to, but maybe check out the YouTube channel. You might see a little something if you're listening. But
I will. I was already thinking as we were recording, what can I clip up? So there will be some clips. Go to the Social Suplex YouTube channel, subscribe there. You'll get the video clips there, and then we will give details soon on how you could get the full show on live stream. And like we mentioned, we'll be traveling to Chicago this week. We'll be in town for Windy City Riot. We'll be at the press conference Friday before the show, Boo Rooftop Bar, and then we will be at Windy City Riot. I don't know if we'll do anything after the show because it depends how long it goes, but
bro, I have an early morning flight the next day, so fuck it. Staying out all night.
I have a late flight. I can fly at like 3:00, so I can definitely stay out later.
Well, we'll fucking figure it out. But yeah, buy us a drink. You're out there, hook your boys up. Put a 20 in our pocket. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Well, that's going to wrap things up for us this week. Hopefully, we see y'all in Chicago. Next week, we'll be back to review Windy City Riot and Wrestling World in Taiwan. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media. On X, follow us at KI Strong Style, at Social Suplex, and at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/Social Suplex and the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. On Reddit, I am the Pro Black Guy. Josh is Keeping It Strong Style. On YouTube, we are at Social Suplex. Join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. And you can email me, Jeremy, at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. All Things Elite with Floyd Johnson Jr. and Austin Simowitz. Imps WWE Adventure with the Implications Matthew Mayer. Wrestling Art with Chris Slings, Tunnel Talk with Ali and Leah, and the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.